Hello and welcome to the Esports Meta. My name is Billy Sims and I'm here to bring you all the exciting news of this past week and today. There's a lot happening in competitive video games and esports this week, and of course the Esports Meta's got you covered. We're going to be talking about the Pokémon World Championships in Honolulu this weekend. We'll be talking about LCS recapping the exciting game in the LCK. Maybe you missed it, maybe you caught it. It's a little bit different, but it's awesome. And then we'll also be talking about Season 12 patch notes, Overwatch. Big news starting today, lots changing. We'll have that covered a little bit later. But to cover all the information and as we run into the things, I'm gonna have to bring in my co-host, and here he is, Nicholas Layton. How you doing today?
I'm doing better, man. You know, feeling better than last week. Feeling good about the episode.
Right, man. Dude, it was a bumpy ride and a bumpy ride since, but you know, we're gonna persevere. We're gonna get through it and we're gonna have fun doing it, of course. Absolutely. But thank you all for joining me. Nick, thank you for joining me here on this episode today, and everybody else out there, thank you for joining us, watching, tuning in from where you are. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you know how. Hit us up right here in the comment section, you know, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're on live everywhere. Or you can just hit us up on our social medias at the Esports Meta. Wherever you like to enjoy your social media, that's what we are too. All right. So if you want to be a part of this conversation, chime on in and we'll do our best to include you. Right, Nick? Right, Nick? Huh?
Yeah, I guess there's more than one Nick. So all the Nicks agree. The Council of Nicks have decided that we are in agreement with you.
Wonderful. Exactly what I needed with my Council of Nicks, always there to support me. But let's get this started. Let's get this episode going. And we're going to start with some news updates. First and foremost, it is an update to a story we were talking about last week. We brought you information about the snap tapping. Right, the keyboard, mouse and keyboard new function where you get immediate inputs and immediate input reactions from your keyboard. Well, doesn't seem like Valve likes it too much, and they're banning it from Counter-Strike 2, both Wooting and Razor's feature. And Nick, on a side note, you had mentioned that a company had put out a poll on their Twitter and immediately updated all the peripherals, everything in their inventory, to include snap tapping, and that company was Wooting, and I was still impressed how they're able to turn that around 24 hours. But here they are. Valve is not happy with either Razor or Wooting for Counter-Strike. What are your thoughts here, Nick?
That's what I was saying last week when we were talking about it, right? Like, this feature has already been a feature in Counter-Strike before through coding, just in general, and making a script. So, like, you've already had the script had the ability to turn on. It was already a bannable offense, is what I was talking about. So, you know, I'm not sure how they're going to check, but, you know, Steam itself, you know, Valve and Steam do have the ability to check your hardware if you do allow them to check your hardware. So I don't know how that's going to work if you're just going to get, you know, unable to go into matchmaking and stuff like that. But
Right. It's going to be interesting because we might be seeing a new arms race literally develop right here, right now. Like, they're going to be able to detect the peripherals. I know that Blizzard just announced that they banned 500,000 people in the last 6 months. And part of that was addressing zimming on Xbox, which they can detect the peripherals being attached and used. When it's out of context, when it's inappropriate, they're able to ban the zimming peripheral. So Valve might be doing the same here. Steam here might be reading the specific. What's up, my dude? What are we giggling about?
It's just hilarious. Like, don't plug in a keyboard, you might get banned, everybody. Like, that's all. That's the funny thing. Like, the boiled down sentence of it is like, you can't use a keyboard.
Right, and I think there's it's not, I mean, it's funny. That is the funny statement with this. Don't use a keyboard. You're not allowed. And I think to a degree, that blanket statement makes sense. But then I know there's exceptions. There's nuance to it where, like, especially with Blizzard and Xbox, they're basically just when they detect it, they're just putting you into the PC pool of players. PC pool of players. That was a nice alliteration. Whereas like some other people are getting banned for XYZ. So I wonder if Valve and Steam are going to detect the peripheral, go, okay, this is a Razer Huntsman, you're just banned. You're not allowed to play. Or this is a Wooting keyboard, you're just banned. Or if they're going to understand the nuance of like, okay, look at the movements, look at the inputs, how fast the inputs are. Because it does make sense to ban this for Counter-Strike. We were talking and like looking at more footage over the past week. You really do see how, especially with Counter-Strike 2, the movement, you're able to align and get a crisper, cleaner accuracy with snap tapping than you would otherwise because of how quick the reticle then snaps into like perfect accuracy versus like the wide accuracy when you're moving. Like it is a big difference, and they seem to feel like it makes a huge impact on the integrity. So it makes sense
It definitely
that
does.
would want to, yeah.
It definitely does. It's definitely an extremely noticeable difference. Like if you watch side by side comparison of people doing the exact same shots, it's 100% noticeable. So it makes sense that they want to like get rid of it. But I just think it'll be like if your game closes down because it detected a Wooting keyboard or a Razer keyboard or the script itself. Like I think that's where it will go. I think the people who even try to do the script might just get like the thing just might close out. I don't think it'll be like an actual like ban. It's like these keyboards are banned, and if you have one, because they're not going to say like they're not going to ban you for having a peripheral. They're just going to say unplug that peripheral that we detect in your computer, like because it's it's usable in other areas. It's not an illegal computer peripheral like it's 1982 or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah, 1984. You're right.
Yeah, there we go.
It's especially egregious after some of these people are paying $200 for the Huntsman Razor, which we were complaining about how they're paywalling that feature behind a bill like that, a price tag like that. So like, it's kind of wild overall. Like, and it almost feels apropos. Use a big fancy French word there. It almost feels appropriate, apropos, that that $200 keyboard is just going for this very tactical, precise game.
I mean, if I was either one of these companies, I would just come out and just probably just say something spicy on Twitter or something like that. Like, fine, you don't want our keyboards? Our keyboards don't want you. You're not allowed to use Wooting keyboards anymore in Counter-Strike 2. Just to let you guys know. Like, the keyboard will turn off if you turn on the program.
Well, yeah, that's real funny too, especially Wooting. But I wouldn't doubt like a company like Wooting with how quick their customer support department was, their PR department, and then their development turnaround on the software. Maybe it's something as easy as just like flipping a switch, like a 1 and a 0, changing a number. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if Wooting then turned around and said, okay, we'll just have it automatically turn off when the keyboard detects it's running CS2. So you can still play the game and not worry about getting banned. And then like, it'll turn on when you play a different shooter.
Maybe, man. That made, like, I'm not even gonna lie. That made me feel uncomfortable. Like that made me feel so uncomfortable. Like, hey, your keyboard, we detected you're playing a new game, and we disabled some feature like that. Like, no. That makes me feel so uncomfortable.
I think tech works that way, man. I think we're in Big Brother's future here, but we'll see what happens with this story. It's a good update. Definitely interesting to see how it develops because developers are going to have to adjust and accommodate stuff like this. Like we were talking about Street Fighter 6 accommodating for the hitbox controller, the fight stick that has been upgraded, but it gives a little bit of a competitive advantage. More than a lot of a competitive advantage, but Street Fighter has nullified that, so it becomes just about preference of controls. But anyway,
True.
If you have
one thing,
yes,
one thing, because I think this will be interesting, right?
Sure.
It's something that I just thought of, and I'm sure we can segue into our next topic based on this. But it's going to be interesting what they decide for their new game that no one knows about, that everybody knows about, called Deadlock. If Deadlock is going to allow Snappy Tappy, right? Which is a Valve game. You don't know. They haven't said anything. We don't even know if Valve makes this game. Who knows? It just has all of like the Valve assets. I don't know.
Right. But we do know that Valve is aware of snap tapping. They do not like it for their precision tactical shooter Counter-Strike 2 and have banned Razer and Wooting's version of snap tapping. But this game that Valve isn't making, that isn't existing, they could be starting to think about that and changing how they're developing for it. But we have a little bit of update on that. You were right, Nick. We got a little bit of a nice transition. We're going to bring us into the next headline story, is that Valve also banned The Verge, the video game publication company, from its secret deadlock playtest for leaking information about the game. You know, the game they're not making, that's not happening. They banned them. This is an article from TechSpot.
Clarification.
What's
from matchmaking? From matchmaking, they can still go in, log into the game, and play the game in custom lobbies with their buddies, like they did, but they just can't play matchmaking. That's the ban that it is.
Yeah, that feels like such a soft like slap on the wrist when it comes to something like this, where they essentially broke an NDA. But like, that's also the crazy thing about this story, and it's a little bit drama, is that The Verge is claiming they never agreed to it. They didn't have to agree to it. They didn't see any NDA or any clause that says they couldn't share the information. That's what they're alleging and arguing. But of course, Valve has been a little bit tight-lipped on it and like pulled out the rug from under Verge's feet on this. Let me say that one again. They pulled out the rug under Verge's feet from the playtest, and specifically just the server access to competitive matchmaking with Valve. They could still run custom games, which is interesting. Nick, what are you seeing with this? Anything you want to chime in on thoughts when you read this article, you heard about this story?
It's just a punishment for giving out a punishment. Like, that's all. Like, you didn't take away the game from them. They just said, like, you can just play with it by yourself now. Like, you can totally tell everybody the features, but you'll never be able to do anything about like how the game really feels to play against other players and stuff like that. So you can talk about the game now, but you can't really express how it makes you feel or how good you think the game is. You can just say, you know, this car is built well. Like, that's it. Like,
yeah, we don't know how it drives on the road because you're only going to drive it in the parking lot.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's such a minor thing, but I wonder if it's just what they can do right now with this version. They've already like thrown out the iteration and like the client, so like Verge could like just hold on to the client, do data mining, could potentially make it worse by giving it to other people to data mine. So I wonder if that is a part of this decision. But you know, in that same way, I wonder how much more it's going to come down later if they send out a new version of the playtest, the beta, the alpha, the closed, whatever it is, and how it plays, if they're going to include that with the Verge or not. From the sounds of this, of just, you know, banning them from competitive matchmaking, it still sounds like they're going to be included, but it's like such a soft like FU, a slap on the wrist here, which is kind of funny.
It's just hilarious. It's like it's doing something for the sake of doing something because they needed to be punished for the thing that they did, but they don't really want to punish anybody. Like it's really like what it is. Like, ooh, I really want to punish you, but no, you can have a teensy piece of the cake. Like, it's like all.
Right, and sometimes these leaks could be tactical. I'll say that in air quotes because like sometimes it's force fed and sometimes it's talked about. It's like, no, we don't want the public to know about this game. We don't want to, and like that's some of the stuff that Valve has done in the past. Like, does X3? Am I saying that correctly? I always mess up the phraseology. Like, there's a. It's just, I can't even. Some of the games that they develop, they're so tight-lipped and so quiet, and they take however much time they want, kind of thing, that they kind of walk around like they don't really know what they're doing sometimes, but then they'll just come out with this amazing situation or amazing game, and then other times it's just a clusterfuck. So, like, it's interesting. They're in this situation with Verb, and it's interesting, like, how much of a legal standpoint is this? Like, oh, no, we didn't hit okay, so we don't have to. Like, I don't think that's going to hold up in a court of law. If you're given an NDA, it doesn't matter if you're accepted it or not. It's part of the terms of agreement, right?
I mean, look at it and then just like look at the responses of like The Verge and like a bunch of other people who like side with Verge. Like, thanks again for like giving us all this information that we were gonna find out eventually, but now we know a little bit earlier because you wanted to like get the story right. Like, they're just like, I didn't sign an NDA. It's like, that's not the point, bro. Like, there's nothing legally binding here. Like, you're a prick. You're such a prick for doing this. Like the argument that you make is like, I'm not in trouble because there's no rules against it, but you did ask me not to do this. Like, it's clear as day. Like, do not. It's not even a question. Like, these guys make it out like they were like, hey, would you mind not sharing anything about this game? We would, as Valve Corporation, we would really appreciate it. Like, that's not what happened here. They're just like, hey, don't share anything for this. You can play this game early access. And they like scroll up so you can see his like first quote. This is how like I got engaged with him in the first place. Like, I kind of like blew steam out of my ears. Like, literally saying, turns out Valve was not fine with me trying Deadlock with friends. Like, they were. They gave you the ability to invite friends.
Right.
Like, you're a dick. You're just a dick. Like, you're nothing else about this. You're just a dick.
I think
That's
before,
and like his argument. Go ahead.
I think before the episode, you'd said something pretty profound and how stupid it was. Is that bros made a pinky promise and then broke the pinky promise?
Yeah, like that's what he did. Like, I swear I won't, bro. Like, it's just silly. It's just silly, right. And it like, you know, if you were talking to a person like this in real life and not reading this nonsense on Twitter or in an article, you'd be pissed just talking to this person. Like, don't hit my car. Do not hit my car. Yeah, I'm sorry I hit your car, man, but I told you not to hit the car. Yeah, I know, but I drove right into it. I could have avoided it, but I didn't.
Stuff happens, man. But I wonder too if it's going to impact the future cars. Right? Like, how much is it going to impact the Verge's access to future games? Valve is kind of slow when it makes games. It doesn't really develop things. When it does, it's methodical and very like detail oriented. But how much, access are you impeding on yourself later on? You've already impeded that ability to play with your friends, but that's on them, Anyway, I think it's time we move on. For that drama, it'll be fun to see what happens, if any more sort of like slap-on wrists occur, or etc. But we've got more to talk about. Like, we're in the final week of the Esports World Cup. So right now we're going to recap week 7, the second to final week, and then we're going to go into what games to watch and expect this week in week 8 of the Esports World Cup. And of course, when we're doing our update on the Esports World Cup, we need to update you on the club points. One of our favorite pastimes of the last 2 months has been this, and we're coming into the home stretch. Team Liquid rounding out second place pretty solidly, and Team Falcons very forwardly in first place. Here we are, 4,400 points, still holding strong. Team Falcons hasn't really changed. Team Liquid has crept up a little bit, but I don't think they've got any more teams left to field and shoot that gap, kind of break that distance, the lead. But when we look at T1 in third place, 1,600, it's not really a lot of points for medals and whatnot. Nick, I know we're looking at this and it's pretty same conversation that we had last week, but what are your thoughts right now? All right, I think we lost Nick for a second.
Just disappeared.
Yeah, but we still got you on voice.
Me.
We still have you on
That's
voice.
Fantastic.
Nick.
Let's do it. Okay, so anyway, it's pretty dope. You can see. Hey, look at me. So you can see it's pretty awesome that Team Falcons remained at the top because of how many hands they had in that cookie jar. But Team Liquid staying strong right there. They didn't have as many in general. Even the focusing is off. What are you talking about? And T1 only had I think it's actually crazier that T1 was only participating in 3 games. I think it was 3 games. I think it was Tekken, Team Fight Tactics, and League of Legends are the only things that they participated in, and they're in third place. Like, I think that's pretty that's solid from them, as an org. And so I think that's pretty cool. And I just wanted Team Liquid to not be third or fourth for the most part. So I'm getting my wish. I said no one was going to touch Team Falcon. It was statistically impossible for Team Falcons to lose first place
Right. And we were talking about how like Team Falcons maybe had the edge because I believe they're a Saudi-based organization. At least they have a lot of representation in the leagues over there, the Saudi leagues. Team Liquid T1 definitely more of a limited roster organization across all the games. I think there was 21 games total, maybe 23 if I recall correctly. But the focus here is seeing now that FaZe Clan is bumped up to sixth place, and like with 1,100 points, that's one gold and what? Maybe a silver or a bronze, tied for bronze. If I take a look at the standings specifically,
600 is gold. 600 for gold. I think it was 500 for silver, or 400 for silver.
Right, and like looking at here specifically, FaZe Clan got one gold and then other placements. So like seeing a fifth or sixth place, they got 60 club points, which then attributed to that. So like for literally just placing one gold medal, it was interesting to see. Yeah, it was 1,000 points, but that will net them roughly sixth place unless something changes this week with the games we're watching coming up. Real interesting in that way. Whereas Team Falcons, this is all the games that they played. This list is so much longer. They had 3 people playing in Street Fighter 6. They had a team at EA Football Club. They've got a team in Call of Duty, et cetera, et cetera. The rest of the teams, really don't have that sort of representation. Liquid is probably close enough. Gaming Gladiators has less than half. And then, we keep going down. It's one team in Alpha 7 that was playing in the Esports World Cup. One team on Rainbow Six Siege for Team BDS. So it really is like shifting the mentality and of the esports are trying to, but then it's also showing the flaw in that sort of system of things. Nick, we've got you bouncing around a little bit. I was also hearing you as a little bit of a robot prior, so I wonder how much of that is like internet quality, whatnot. But we're going to just push through. Let me know if I need to stop or repeat, and I'll do the same to you, okay?
Sure.
All right, awesome. All right, yeah, so club champion points, it's pretty straightforward. It looks like in this final week, Team Falcons is going to run away home with it. That ratio of gold medals and placements versus not placing seems to be about 50-50 for that. But, they're also running a ton of teams for this. Team Liquid probably walking away with second place. Hopefully nobody catches up on that because just one win from a gaming... Well, T1 really is going to knock them down. But I don't think T1's playing in anything else in the tournament here in the final week.
Yeah, I think like the most interesting part is maybe we might see more big organizations buy up smaller organizations that actually have players for certain teams. I mean, for certain games or teams for certain games. I think that would be pretty cool if you could just like, if you get one team you're really, really good at Street Fighter and then you just sell your team for like in its points for a couple million or something like that to FaZe Clan or somebody, who knows.
Right, and quickly, I just want to try to look at the club championship prize pool for EWC, but I have to spell it correctly. Club championship.
Yeah, I think it was like 10 million, because the whole thing was 60 million.
Right. Oh, it's going to award 20 million total. So let me bring this back up real quickly. The club championship right here. Club championship. An innovative cross-game competitive format unique to the EWC will award 20 million to the top 16 clubs based on their overall performance. Which, I mean, just looking at the standings a second ago, you've got sixth place, only won one gold. So just winning one gold medal might put you in contention to like get part of the 20 million here.
I mean, you'll definitely, if you're top 16, you're definitely going to get part of that 20 million. But it does look like the number one place is probably going to get like 10 million. Like, it's going to be like 10 million for first, 5 million for second place, and then just the rest of it is thrown out to the other participants, because it goes all the way down to 16, man. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, and it feels like a fighting game thing, top 16 prize pool, top 8, but 20 million is a lot of dollars, and yeah, it would make sense that the first place walking away with 10 million. And that, to me, that almost makes it worth it. Like, you could gobble up some smaller organizations underneath the banner of one bigger organization for $10 million in hopes of placing. But, you know, we're seeing that the mountain of Team Falcons is pretty tall right now, and they kind of sniffed this out a lot earlier. So we'll see if anybody else catches on, if we see if it's worth it.
I mean, yeah, they're the Saudi Arabian team, right? Organization.
I believe so. We can do a quick verification on that. Team Falcons.
Like the organizer, you know, the prime minister, the prince, right? He could just be looking for a rebate. He's like, yeah, my guys, get all your people together, win all of these, at least get a bunch of points in these games. You'd be able to win the 20 million. You get 5, I get 5 back. That's great. No, they don't need it.
Yeah, no, we're confirming. It is a Saudi esports organization founded in 2017, fields multiple esports rosters, yada, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And this is saying it was founded by the winner of the 2018 FIFA World World Cup. That's a weird. Okay. But yeah, anyway, it is a Saudi-based team, so they probably had a little bit more insight into how the club championship points are going to work and what it's going to mean. They're definitely going to benefit from that, looking to walk away with a large chunk of change if nobody overtakes them, which, spoilers, they're probably not. But, you know, it's Team Liquid's probably also going to be walking away with a good chunk of change on that one. All right. I think that's a great place to wrap that part up, and we're going to move into a recap of the games from this past week. Week 7 recap of the EWC, and we had 3 specific games we were taking a look at. And the first and foremost here, big congratulations to Jafonzo. Actually, let's break it over into EA Sports Football Club, the format, what was going on here, because that's what we're going to be doing, going over the rules and the winners of, first and foremost, the football club. All right, this was a best of 1 match with 9-minute halves. Group stages had 16 players split into 2 groups of 8 players, played round robins. Top 3 moved on, and then next few were put into a comeback vengeance sort of stage. Vengeance stage has 6 players that had double elimination, so kind of interesting in that to think, Nick, where you have a double elimination in a loser bracket moment, but you know, the top 2 fought to get back in, basically.
It's pretty tough calling it a resurrection stage. That's hard as hell, dude. That's some like death metal shit, dude. Like, you're just like, yeah, it's the resurrection stage over there.
I don't know, man.
Go there, like, this Phoenix Rising, man. Like,
right. It feels like it's possibly yeah, we both sipped the tea on that one, but it feels like it's, I don't know, it's either EA PR marketing or it's like somebody who's like, yeah, we're not losers. We're going to be resurrected like the Phoenix. We're going to come back and we're just going to rise to the top. I don't know, man. Top 2 advanced back into the playoff bracket, and then the playoffs was single elimination with the top 8 players finally. We see here, first place, Jafonzo, as we kind of saw earlier, winning $300,000, taking home the prize. Young from Brazil taking away second place at $150K. Then we got Finns and Abu Maka, third and fourth place respectively. Team Falcons showing some placement here with $90K, third place, fourth place finish here. I'm going to bring us down into the brackets, especially that resurrection stage here, so we can kind of take a bit of a deeper look on that and see if it was meaningful. That resurrection stage, it was not a loser's bracket, if it was a winner's bracket. It seems that Abu Maka did get knocked down into the resurrection stage pretty early and then made it out of qualifiers there. And then otherwise it's Manu Bachuri. Nick, how would you say? You're more of our diction person.
I have
here.
no idea, dude. Manu Bachur.
Manu Bachur. Let's go with that. Manu Bachur taking a victory over Bonanno 10-1. I'm no soccer player, but that is baseball scores. That is high.
Oh, it's probably Bachuri. Mono Bachuri? I don't know.
Montefiore.
Maybe.
But
That's going to drive me
either
nuts.
yeah, if you know what it is, make sure you correct us. Let us know what's going on because this is the first time we're seeing a player username like this, and we want to make sure we're doing our best for that. But Montefiore taking a 10-1 victory over Bonanno, and which is pretty dominant, making it out of the resurrection stage. Then we go into the playoffs where it's back to single elimination, no losers bracket here. Montefiore getting bumped off almost immediately by the person who eventually won the tournament as a whole. And we can see our other guy, Abumaka, beating Nicholas 8-0 in that first stage, first round. Probably just had his number, but then getting himself knocked out by Young for that finals match, that semifinals match. All right.
Yeah, it seemed like there was like, what, 4 people out of like all of this that like really were the top contenders for it because of how well they dominated overall, right? Like
Right.
Young did pretty well, Jafonzo did pretty well, Abumaka and Manu all did pretty well.
I sort of agree. And I'm taking a look at these stat lines, the scores here. Like, in the resurrection stage, a lot of the games are pretty close. Maybe that's showing just the outlier of the strength of the player. I want to head up into the group stages to take a look at like the scores and the differential. Jafonzo was plus 16 in goals against everybody else. Nicholas was also plus 16 in goals for them. So like there seems to be huge differentials here at the extremes of like top to bottom. So I wonder about the skill level here, if it's kind of spread around, if it's a little bit of a roulette wheel a bit, because it also like, these guys who get knocked into resurrection stage, was it just unlucky because of brackets, or was it like, they had a bad day kind of stuff? Because one of them ends up in 3rd and 4th place walking away, but they're still getting beat 7-2, which doesn't look good as a stat line. And that's what I'm saying here is like, it's pretty weird. The differential of goals scored for these guys who won are pretty astronomical compared to the goals against, or for the people who even 3rd or 4th place. All right. Kind of interesting to see, kind of a fun thing to look at and wonder about. If you know a little bit more about football club and the tournament style, I think this is one of the biggest tournaments there are for this. EA doesn't really sponsor a lot of things. I know they do some closed league stuff. I think FIFA actually stopped sponsoring the league, which is why they switched over to Football Club. So if you have any insight and you've a game that you follow and you're passionate about, let us know what the meta is, what you feel like the meta is, if it's a specific team, if everyone's picking Messi or they're going Ronaldo, or if they just doing something else with like a fantasy draft style, let us know. We'd love to hear about it because these scores seem pretty wacky, but it'd be like that sometimes, right, Nick?
Yeah, it's definitely like that, man. that game, like, it makes me scratch my head, dude. Like, I don't know any intricacies of Football Club or FIFA just in general, to even like know what they're doing besides just like thinking that it's just the soccer version of Madden. Like that's all. That's my thought process because I've played Madden. Yeah, I never played a soccer game. So, but definitely cool. The prize pool is crazy to me, like overall.
Well, overall too, these games don't fully represent like their traditional counterpoints. They do, but like how you end up playing it and think about it ends up being slightly changed with strategy and whatnot. Like this is a huge callback, like probably not totally relevant, but just like how Techno Bowl, like Bo Jackson was predominantly the guy. And it was the guy because he was just faster. The stats and the physics for him were better. And like, that's like just game design from that scale of things. I know they've modernized with EA sports in general, with football, with Madden, with soccer here, EA FC. But I wonder how much does it matter if you have a Messi or Ronaldo on your team? Does it matter if you have an Mbappe on your team? I'm sure in some degree it does, but then like maybe it's more about what the players can do with a controller and their understanding of the physics in the game, which makes it more akin to a fighting game, but you're fighting with 12 individuals, 12 on 12 or 11 on 11, right?
What's the wave dashing for football club? Like what's their glitch mechanic in the game?
Right. There's got to be some sort of like frame cancellation for the bicycle kick or whatnot. But, let's head over to a game what might be a solved game for the players who know the code and know the game for nearly 2 decades now in StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 at Esports World Cup worked pretty much like this. There was a main stage of 16 players separating into 2 groups, 8 players each. It was double elimination brackets with a best of 5 series each. The winners advanced into the final 4, and second place would play a group match, and the winners of the second place matches would advance to the final 4. Then there was a knockout stage where 13 of the players and 2 of the qualifiers would then compete. Interesting that it was a 15 player situation for a single elimination bracket, best of 3 here, when then the finals of the knockouts were best of 5, and then the winner advances into the final 4. And I think this is where the math ends up mathing. Final 4 was a best of 7 single elimination, and then the grand finals was a best of 9. So this might have been a slog, Nick. It looks like just by format wise, you start off with a best of 5, you scoot back into a best of 3, and then slowly creep up into a best of 9, man. Number of matches were all over the place, but maybe it's also to ensure the quality of the best players getting time to play and do the best they could.
This StarCraft is a crazy game. Because it's been out for so long, but there's so many different like strategies, and the way the players play is like very different, right? So like there's only 3 races to really pick from, and like which one you pick depends on like what strategy you're going to use, unless you came up with like a new strategy. I mean, like Scarlet comes up with, it feels like a new strategy like each month, where I get to see like a new video of like, oh my God, Scarlet's new strategy. That's like changing the way certain players do things.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of talking about. Like, this is a solved game almost. They figured out the coding, they figured out the frame glitches or how you can increase your APM as much as possible, which is insane at this point for this game. The players who are able to do it are able to do it, and like it's really sort of dictated by those 3 races that you're saying. This also, like, I know we're more of like Super Smash Brothers players, like with the history and stuff. This is so reminiscent of Smash, where it's like you have this one equation, it's a solved equation, and then out of nowhere, somebody comes in with that like off the rope sort of strategy that might just be like, what are they smoking? And it turns out they've been cooking the whole time and they just figured it out. And like, StarCraft has had those moments over the course of history, and is a lot happening. I don't think there was a moment here during EWC. I think it was pretty straightforward, but we're going to take a look at that right now. Nick, before we head into it, do you have any thoughts to prep us?
No, like there's StarCraft is much like what you were saying. Like I don't compare it to Smash, but I do compare it to like chess, where like how you're supposed to start as like whatever race, like, they should be doing this, they should be doing that early, but it kind of came down to the point where like certain strategies they might be noob strategies, right? But they're not really like a noob strategy. It's like, I'm doing this because everybody already knows that we're going to do, like, we do this. And it happens in chess like all the time now, where like certain openings and stuff are just stupid. They're not smart whatsoever. And it's literally only because like it's so controlled and so known on like what players do and what they can do and how efficient they can be, that like you need to just go like, nope, we're making a base over here. Sorry, stole one of your minions, made a base. Like, now I'm making Protoss units. Get wrecked. Like, as like absurd. Like, this is like stuff that's like literally going on throughout this game. So it's really, really cool in that sense, where it's so uniform already, but they're breaking it because of how uniform the game had gotten over the past bunch of years.
Right, and I think that's where we see a lot. I feel like I see a lot of Smash Bros. Similarities because it feels like it's a solved game. Like this is what you need to do, and it comes down to the execution of it and like player errors. And like the best players won't make that many errors, but then on top of that, you know, the mind games. It really ends up being about feinting here and pushing there kind of stuff, and what you expect breaking the tradition, perhaps, and it seems like Clem had their thumb on it. Basically, they knew exactly what to do because they walk away with $400,000 and first place, a member of Team Liquid. Congratulations, Clem. Cyril walking away with 150K, something we've talked, like a player we've talked about pretty recently, not in depth, but I know the name has come up. And then third and fourth place, two representatives from Japan. Sorry, I saw that wrong. Two representatives from South Korea, Dark and Hero. Congratulations, third and fourth place respectfully. 80K total prize. Yeah, a bit of a visual error because a scale on my end, but MVP was Clem. How do you award an MVP for a single player game though, Nick? Like, this seems a little bit weird. Like, is it going to be guaranteed the person who walks away with first place? No. So you're just going to give them an extra 450K, it seems like?
No, because I didn't get a chance to watch all of this because of everything that's been going on for like the last month with all the games and everything, plus the Olympics. But no, like it's just no. Like even the person who like loses could be like the person who's like an MVP because of like a new strategy that they might have done, how entertaining the game might have been, how well they controlled their micro, just like their little battles, right? Like it's so weird in StarCraft where your micro is and macro are both extremely important, just like in like other games, but small little tiny movements of how you do these micro, like I'll call them transactions in battles, right? Like these little micro transactions of damage in these fights ends up being crazy. And it's why these guys end up like winning is how they handle these very unique micro transactions. So let's say it again. Boom. Like,
no, that's a fair point, but it's a little counterintuitive, right? Because the most valuable player is the player who created the most value. And generally you get the most, when you have the most value, you win. So like it feels underproductive or counterintuitive if the most valuable player is somebody who lost, unless they lost in the final round. But here we are, Clem as number one. They did walk away with first place. They walk away with the MVP, an extra 50K. It just, like I said, I wanted to point that out because it did feel weird to me. EWC is putting MVP awards in every tournament. It just feels weird in this 1v1 sort of fashion. And like, I wonder what their judgment and basis and thought process is with that MVP here. Because it could have, like you're saying, maybe that micro and macro was more important for somebody else to get to it. But it seems that they agreed that Clem was the person who created the most value. All right. As you were saying, it generally looks like there was only three factions that were played overall that are competitive. Terran being the most here.
There's only three. You know that, right? Like I just want to make this clear. Okay, all right.
It's been a minute, but we can see the difference of like play, and it seemed that like only 4 times Protoss were played, whereas Terran was played 9, Zerg 5. So it's kind of interesting in that regards of what seeing is valuable. Nick, can you just enlighten me? I'm not too sure if I remember correctly, but we could do a mirror match where it's like Protoss versus Protoss, or does it have to be different factions?
No, it could be the same. It could be the same. Like the easiest thing to like know is that like Terran and Zerg are, I don't want to say like easier to use. They tend to just have like less numbers that like get broken out of hand. Like I remember in the beginning of like StarCraft 2, Protoss was just like heavily favored with certain units, and they just had to get like nerfed into oblivion and stuff like that for certain like strategies. So usually it just ends up like Terran's a good one. Terran is really good. Zerg's really fast at doing certain things, i.e. Zerg rushing. Right. Yeah. It's like, and then Terran's usually more of like the tempo. And then, the late stage stuff usually tends to be in like Protoss because they have more like singular units when they're building stuff as compared to like turn that has like, 2 units built on this, or, one vehicle that can count as a bunch of different units, stuff like that. And then Zerg has, 5 units per.
Right, and it is a little bit like a fighting game where the character selected, the faction selected, is going to dictate strategy, the capacity of strategy. But either way, looking at the brackets of the group stage, we do have some representation from the US, NA all day, but it didn't seem like they got far. They did come out of the upper bracket quarterfinals, got into the semis, and knocked down by Dark, who eventually got into the Final Four, I believe. Yeah. The stat lines here all look pretty straightforward, pretty normal. I'm not really seeing any outliers, any sort of names, just the dominant players are being dominant. A lot of close matches. I'm sure at this sort of level, too, the players know each other really well and know strategies and mindset. So that's where you get a lot of the mind games of just like a close sort of this. And like I said, there's a lot of games that were played, man. Like, look at this is just the second bracket, the knockout bracket. I want to bring us into the Final Four where it's, overall where we saw the numbers come through. But by the time we get here after the knockout stage, we're in 4-0, 5-0 territory. Clem taking it over Cyril for 5-0.
The matches are about 20 minutes or so. They're usually not very very long. You know what I mean? Like, so it makes sense when you're like talking like best of 7. That's a match for League of Legends or Overwatch or something.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like the amount of stuff they're able to do, and like that's a lot of the name of the game, how quick and how efficient you can be with this stuff. But still, like you're talking 20 minutes a game. Clem played best of 9. He won 5-0 against Cyril for first and second place respectively. That's still almost 2 hours, right? And like that's kind of what I'm saying. It's a lot shorter when you're doing a best of 3 earlier, right? 2-0s, best of 3. But like I'm saying, there's a lot of individual matches getting played, and this seems to be as much of a gauntlet as it is a tournament sort of bracket here. Just sitting around waiting, doing this and that for it. But that might be another mindset thing, another meta, in-person meta kind of aspect of it, where the player's experiencing it. I'm not to say it's any less fun to watch and whatnot, but it might just be another one of those challenges to be the best in the world here.
StarCraft's intense, dude. I legitimately do love watching it because it is very much like you need to know what your opponent's doing and you need to react to what your opponent's doing. Unlike, even League of Legends and stuff like that. Like that's like one of the coolest things of like in the game, you have to know what they're doing. You have to scout. You have to make sure that you're informed. Otherwise, you're just going to get stomped down, in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I am not good enough at this game to even, comprehend a lot of what's happening. And this is a game that's been out for such a long time. So it is nearly a solved game. So I definitely agree. I definitely could and I become flabbergasted overall because I don't know where to go after this point. Because I'm going to bring us up a little bit, just watching a little bit of the VOD, I don't totally know what's going on when I'm looking at it. I understand the scouting part. I understand strategies with the different factions and whatnot, like just on a base level. But these guys are colors. Doing it. I'm colorblind though, so it gets a little tricky for me.
so the green ones right here, these green ones, that's an inside joke for anybody who knows Billy. These green ones over here, Billy, are fighting the red ones that are right there.
Yes, man.
It looks like. All right.
Yeah.
No, but basically that's what I was talking about when you pulled the clip up right there. That's the micro play of pulling and pushing units and getting them and pulling them out of position. And then look at that. That's just trying to pull people away. Right. So you have the Hydralisks. I think they're Hydralisks. The quality's a little meh from what I'm looking at. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get information, but also trying to pull these units out, just move them. Those should be Hydralisks.
I can understand the bigger strategy of things, but what I'm saying is I can't necessarily identify what's happening in the moment of things, because again, I struggle with colors, but the pace that this happens on, the actions happen. You can look at the bottom right hand. You literally look at how fast they're moving, and it's efficiency, it's mind games, and it's just actions so quick, so fast, so persistent for sure. So like that's the thing that definitely intimidates me with a game like StarCraft. But I love to hear about it. I love watching it as far as the strategy goes, but I do have a hard time overall following and understanding on that.
The Pepsi
Nick,
map.
any final thoughts on StarCraft, or can we move into our next game?
Now we can move into it. It's a shame they won't make StarCraft 3, but you know, StarCraft 2 is great. Like anybody who hasn't played it, like go ahead and buy it for $20 and like play it with your friends against computers or something. It's a solid, fun game, especially I like the 3v3 format just in general. I don't like
still
singular.
There's still a ton of people playing it too after all these years.
Yeah. Plus there's modded rooms and stuff like that. This is where like literally StarCraft and Warcraft and stuff like that, these engines are what made MOBAs today. So, you know, just try them out. They're fun.
Yeah, it's not just the engines, it's also the brain power. These are the people and the thought processes of the game and game design that ended up making League of Legends and Dota, etc. But I think on that note, let's switch into the next game that we're going to update you on, recap a little of what happened in the past week, which is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. The EWC tournament just occurred this past week, like the other ones, but we're going to run down what the format was and then congratulate some winners and look at the prize pool. So this was a 4 groups of 4, best of 5, similar to the GSL. Top 2 of each group advances. And then this is pretty straightforward. We go right into a playoffs, best of 7 single elimination bracket tournament. And the grand final ends up being a best of 7. So first to 4 wins. Nick, how much of the, what is it? Is it the CDL? Or I'm thinking of something else? Call of Duty League? Have you watched? None?
Yeah. Exactly. Like,
I've seen
absolutely none.
I've watched some games here and there through the season, have some connections to some of the teams, but you know, Call of Duty has always been a fun shooter, but it never felt like I could translate it into the competitive stuff. But that's different here. Of course, EWC is a big competitive. These players, these teams have been able to translate that, and we're seeing some familiar team names, organizations right here, first and foremost. Nick, anything you want to pinpoint or point out before we start off congratulating, looking at the prize pools?
No, I mean like this is Modern Warfare.
Yeah,
right.
Modern
So
Warfare
this is like arena shooter kind of situation, not battle royale. Right, like I'm not sure when it comes to like these tournaments. Like when it comes to Call of Duty now, I don't know if it's going to be battle royale or not. And like I just don't know anymore. Like I've been so out of touch on Call of Duty. Like I'm not the biggest fan of where it is and where it ended up. So, but it's always like interesting to watch. Like as all shooters are, just in general.
Yeah, and it's pretty straightforward when it comes to like objective and goals here, right? But congratulations, Atlanta FaZe taking away first place, 600,000. I think you see a lot of FaZe Clan stuff generally online and whatnot as an organization. It's hard to tell if they have a lot of like wins and representation in anything other than Call of Duty. But they seem to be making it happen here at the EWC, taking a name 1,000 club points and $600,000 away. 100 Thieves, also another strong social media organization there to brand and lifestyle, but you know they still got some teeth on them. They're still winning some tournaments, playing some games, walking away with $320,000 and 600 club points. Optic Gaming and Vancouver Surge. I think Vancouver Surge is a carryover from the CDL, not CWL. I'm thinking of something else, but they're going away 3rd and 4th place and $160,000 richer overall. All right.
Congratulations, Drake. Drake just won $300,000 for his organization.
Probably betting on that too.
No, you know he's like half owner, right?
Yeah. Was it Valkyrie part owner of 100 Thieves? I think Valkyrie is also part owner of 100 Thieves. But yeah, you've got, you know, a bunch of different. Let's take a look at the quick playoff bracket here. Optic Gaming over Cloud9 3-1, FaZe Clan over Optic Gaming 3-1, and FaZe Clan walking away over 100 Thieves 4-2. not so much one-sided, but kind of. And then the bottom half, Toronto Ultra, 100 Thieves, Vancouver Surge, and Royal Ravens all coming close in that first quarterfinal match of it with 3-2 match scores. But then you get into 100 Thieves just over. They had Vancouver Surge's number. There's no question about it, 3-0 in them, and then getting 4-2'd at the end there. Pretty straightforward. It seems pretty competitive, and then it seems maybe longevity on the games kind of wore them out. Maybe the better teams knew how to run it, how to play, how to pick. But congratulations to Atlanta FaZe walking away with that money.
Yeah, congrats. It's so much money for these tournaments, man.
Dude, absolutely.
So much money.
Absolutely. All right. So now is the time we're going to look ahead to this week of EWC. What's going on, what to watch. We're going to make this one pretty quick because there's a lot to get to still. And we're going to basically start us off with this week. You're watching Rocket League. I know I'm going to be. Rocket League is hands down one of the most exciting esports out there. And of course, with the prize pool at the EWC going to be so large, we're going to be seeing who makes the plays, who gets the explosive MVP award, and walks away. So the format here, real quick, 16 teams. They're going to be divided into 4 groups. All matches are going to be best of 5. The top 2 teams from each group are going to advance into the playoffs, and the bottom 2 are going to be eliminated. Pretty straightforward, round robin sort of style. Playoffs are going to be single elimination. Let me try that again. The playoffs are going to be single elimination bracket, and matches are going to be best of 7. They're going to be fighting for a total prize pool of $200,000, $80,000, and $40,000 in first, second, third, and fourth, respectively. And of course, that individual player, because we know there's a lot of egos in Rocket League, and generally for the better, that $50,000 MVP award of most valuable player in the organization, man. Let's run over the teams that are going to be competing this weekend and maybe try to do a shot in the dark. But I generally feel like Rocket League can be anyone's game. It is so competitive at the highest levels. And we do have international representation here. We have international co-mingling. So it'll be cool to see how they match up when sometimes they don't necessarily play together, but be fun to see. So Nick, stop me if you want to make a comment or a note about any of these teams, but I'm just going to run through. We've got Gentle Mapes, which I believe had won previously early this year, one of the big majors for Rocket League. Team BDS, Team Vitality, G2 Stride coming in for North America, specifically Canada and the US. Gen G Mobile One Racing, also from Canada and the US. Space Station Gaming, also coming from the US. So 3 specific teams invited from there. 3 teams from the EU. What's up?
It's It's an on that third row. On that third row, I think I see the winner.
Let's get to it. We're going to be PWR Power, coming from Australia. Chiefs Esport Club, also Australia. Furia Esports, Team Secret. Then we've got Team Falcons, Twisted Minds, Gaming Gladiators, Exo Esports, Limitless, and the Cosi Ballers. What are you staring at, Nick? Who do you see winning this? Just shot in the dark.
Team Falcons is going to win. Team Secret needs to change their logo. Just in general, probably go with Thoth instead of like an Eye of Horus kind of look, but like whatever, guys. Like Team Falcons is just gonna I feel like they're gonna win, right? Like, are you kidding me? Why are you switching me up, camera? What's going on here? No, I like Team Falcons. I think will just be like the winner, just because obviously they need more team points in order to win everything, right? In order to really prove their dominance in the club aspect of the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that's overall tough, right? It's highly competitive, highly flashy, very, very technical, with a lot of strategy. The team play strategy is a huge part of it, covering the back rotations, etc., knowing when to boost, when to not to boost. I don't know how much representation. I don't know how much I've seen Team Falcons at the majors earlier this year. I would probably put my money on something else. But this could be anybody's match. This could be anyone's tournament. It's going to be a real fun one to watch. You can watch along this week, EWC.com, esportsworldcup.com, as well as their YouTube page. You can live stream it and watch all the explosive action for Rocket League specifically. And I do feel like it's anyone's match, anyone's game. As we get Nick bouncing around the screen, man. It is one of those days.
I have no idea why. I'm looking at a speed test of 250, 250. Anywho,
I'm going to bring us over to the group stages. Let me make sure I'm in Rocket League. Yes, okay. Group stages. This is first and foremost what the teams are going to have to fight against each other and try to get out of. In Group A, we've got Power, Limitless, Team BDS, and G2 Esports. In Group B, Team Secret, EXO Esports, Gen G, and Team Falcons. This one might be maybe the group of death for this tournament because these are names that I have seen working it at other majors, but we'll see what happens if they show up to Radaya. Group C, Team Vitality, Nkosi Brawlers, Twisted Minds, and Furia. And then Group D, Chief Esports, Space Station, Gaming Gladiators, and Gentle Mates Alpine. Might be a soft, easy bet to go with the Gentle Mates because I believe they had won previously a major. So that might be a soft, easy bet to move on.
Maybe. Who knows? I'll bet on Team Falcons because they got the most points in orgs. So that's who I'm going with.
All right. Nice gentleman's bet between the two of us. We'll see who and what happens as we watch along this week. And another game we're going to be watching along this week is going to be Tekken. I know you've been talking about Tekken this entire time. I can't believe it's taken 8 weeks for us to even get to Tekken, but we're going to run down what to be looking forward to this week while watching Tekken and the format. Nick, before we start on this, any initial words for Tekken and people who may not know Tekken and why they should pay attention to Tekken?
Honest to God, Tekken is one of the best fighting games to legitimately watch. Compared to Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and this is no disrespect on those games, watching them compared to Tekken, they're trash. Tekken is great as far as a competitive esports standpoint for the viewer. It's I don't want to say down the earth. It's just not too flashy, but it's definitely intense and it's definitely got a nice appeal with how fluid it is and how the movements work and everything like that.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely some wise words and definitely some wisdom that people can look for and look at when they look at this tournament. So the format and how it's going to work this tournament is going to be 8 groups of 4 players. Each group plays a double elimination bracket. Kind of interesting. All matches are FT2. What is that? Is that a first to 2?
First to 2. Yeah,
so it's best of 3. Technically, right?
No, because you can time out and stuff like that, and you can draw. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It could just be a stalemate match if
right.
You're both at the same health and everything like that. So first to 2.
Gotcha. Wording to me feels a little bit specific, nuanced, but I'm sure they know what they're doing with that. Top 2 players from each advance into the second phase. Remaining players are eliminated. The next phase, 4 groups of 4 players, double elimination bracket, first to 2 again, and the same deal. Rinse and repeat. Top 2 players move on to third phase. Third phase becomes a single elimination bracket, and all matches are going to be first to 5. Definitely interesting. Definitely going to matter a lot when it comes to seeding and who's going to get placed and whatnot. Let me bring us down into the prize pool first. First place is going to be $300,000. So these guys are going to be competing and aiming at that 300K prize pool. Definitely a healthy chunk of change because the next highest prize, that second place, is less than half, only $140,000 for second place and $75,000 for third place. That feels off as far as numbers, but, might be on. Anyway, I'm going to bring this actually over into a much cleaner page so we can take a look at the groups. Maybe not. Let's do over here, actually. Let's just take a look at who's competing, the teams that are attending. TYH, Esports, DRX, Fnatic, Yamasa, Vero, Kwangdong Frex, Nadas Vincere, Twisted Minds, Big Clan, Team Falcons, your boys, Regal Zabatsu, Dragon Esports, Zeta Division, T1. T1 might have some push power here. Get out of third place, get into second place. Blacklist International, don't do it.
No, I want Team Liquid to be in second place, man.
Team Vitality, Ashes Gaming, Fate Esports, Ninjas in Pajamas, AG Global, and Cadacia Esports.
I didn't know Nip was playing. That's good for them. NIP,
Right, yeah.
the Nips.
I haven't seen that organization out and about in quite a while, but good to see they're still working it here in Tekken overall. Man, with fighting games, it's going to be tough. There's a lot of groups happening. Take a look at this. It's going to start tomorrow, Wednesday, the 21st. The matches are going to ramp up as we get through the weekend, and they're going to be getting into that final playoff bracket, I believe, Sunday, to try to play for that prize, that overall $300,000. Makes a big, big difference first to second. And even placing in top 12, top 16, you're walking away with some money.
Bro, they already got it set up. We don't even have a fourth place. 6, 7, 8. It doesn't exist. Just playing. They already know. They already know. But no, dude, the prize pool is great for this. Like, it's all the games do pretty well for like their prize pools for the most part, except for like Dota and Rocket League have like prize pools compared to what they normally have. Like Dota, not really, but like, it should be more. Anyway, but these are like solid prize pools for a fighting game. You win $300,000 is it's crazy. And then not only do you like solidify your standing as the best fighter in the world for this, you possibly get picked up for your Olympic debut next year in Street Fighter. In Tekken, you never know.
Yeah, right. They're not just playing for the prize pool here. They're playing for reputation. They're playing for notoriety, because this match could mean a lot. This tournament can mean a lot in the future. And that's a lot of fighting games in general. You're not just fighting for right now. You're fighting for your future here, for how competitive it is. Absolutely. So I think that kind of sums it up, and we'll have a lot to talk about next week as we recap it. So make sure to join us next week here at the Esports Meta. We're live every Tuesday, or you can check us out on YouTube/social media, where you can catch clips of us at the Esports Meta. All right. I think that's enough for that topic, EWC, and it's time to get to, man, we're already an hour in. We just have so much to talk to, dude.
So much to talk to.
So much to talk
to.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, my guy.
All right. So I'm going to move us into our next topic. All right. So our next topic, we're going to be talking about League of Legends, the updates on the games that happened this past weekend, and we're going to be spotlighting a very exciting game from the LCK this past weekend. We're also going to be talking about the World Championships for Pokemon. We got to get to that still. And finally, we've got Overwatch Season 12 patch notes just dropped today. We're going to run through those. So let's get to it. No dilly-dallying. Here we go. League of Legends. What happened this weekend?
No problem.
LCS North
matter
America.
In the LCS. Okay, it was awesome. It's fine. The LCS was fine. It like legitimately doesn't matter compared to this Academy game. It was fine.
It's fine.
It was fine.
We see a 3-0 from 100. We see a 3-0 from 100 Thieves over Dignitas, which we kind of saw was going to happen with the records going into this playoff bracket. And then we got FlyQuest 3-1ing NRG. NRG Kia kind of surprisingly taking a round off of a map off of FlyQuest. Is that an actual surprise or like a
that's FlyQuest?
Surprise? That's just FlyQuest?
That's yeah. Even when they're doing click on FlyQuest real quick. I wanted to see who played for them again. I don't remember exactly who played over the weekend.
And works out for Donkey.
Let's see.
More specifically, there we go.
Yeah, it was like Masu.
Masu,
and Inspired, Flippo, and everything like that. Yeah, like it's just like an MO of like a joking MO of FlyQuest, where like even if they're doing well, they just have a chance to just throw a game away for like no reason. So it's not like, it's like understandable. Like as far as like my feelings are concerned of, FlyQuest just in general. Yeah, just fine. Yeah. It's fine. They lost the game.
It's
doesn't
fine,
matter.
just fine.
Like it really doesn't. No, it really doesn't. Like the only thing, it doesn't. It does not matter. NRG, Kia isn't like, they're not bad teams again. They're not bad players. It just, some players are just stronger on this patch. Some players are stronger in these combination of players. 100 Thieves did exactly what I thought they were going to do. FlyQuest did exactly what I thought they were going to do.
Right.
So yeah, not too exciting, but it does set up us for like next week. This is what I was saying last week, right? Is like FlyQuest just has to not pick up the bad habits that they might have done to throw that game against NRG. 100 Thieves is looking, strong 3-0 against Dignitas. Maybe they're feeling themselves, and they're going to go in and say, listen here, Honda, like you got no gas. Boom, kicks them out. You never know, right? Like you never know.
That's what we're hoping for.
Sort of thing.
That is absolutely
that's not what I'm hoping for. But these are my two favorite like teams that are fighting each other. So I love 100 Thieves. I love Team Liquid. So it's going to be interesting. But overall, I think Team Liquid's going to walk away with a 3-1. Maybe a 3-2, but Heart of Hearts probably says 3-2 is probably what the actual thing is going to be. Team Liquid wins. And then I think Cloud9's just going to pub stomp FlyQuest, to be honest, with a 3-0.
Okay. I know that's the one I'm looking at. I think it's going to be the more interesting kind of, because FlyQuest might not have the drive, but they might just be pushing for the prize money for this tournament, this playoff run. Going against Cloud9, it's probably going to be the more competitive match. This split, Team Liquid was 7-0 versus NRG Kia being 2-5. 100 Thieves, I think, were also in the negative. I think they were 3-4. But either way,
pack.
Yeah, you got a middle of pack team versus the top team. Statistically, it looks like it's going to be Team Honda taking the win, likely. But I'd love to see 100 Thieves make a competition out of it, or take the win. But the FlyQuest Cloud9 game is going to be the one I'm looking at for sure, and hopefully to see what happens there. It's going to be pretty exciting. My fingers crossed on that one.
I think the most exciting games are still yet to come in the losers bracket. I think the losers bracket will have the most exciting games besides 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid for me. I think that this game will be more exciting for me. Personally, I think it's going to be a little bit closer than it might actually appear on paper.
Right.
For 100 Thieves and everything. But, that's where I'm thinking it's a 3-2, and I think it's going to be a 3-0 from Cloud9, personally. But, it could be wishful thinking. I could be 100% wrong. Who knows?
We'll have to see. We'll have to watch this week, see what's going on. But we have one more close match to go over, and it comes from the LCK. Nick, specifically, you wanted to spotlight this game because you were sweating bullets. You were having a grand old time. So let me bring this over to the thing, set us the stage a little bit better so we can see it, let it load, boom. And then in the background, we just have some of the game footage happening. So set the stage. Tell me what happened and why it was exciting.
All right, so not Team Liquid, T1, right? This is T1 Academy versus Fox. Okay, this is essentially League of Legends Korea minor leagues. Okay, they did not perform the strongest, but they had some really amazing matches throughout the whole entire year. Just T1 in general, right? So setting the stage for this is a playoff match, and in playoffs, these are going to be best of 5, right?
All right.
So first to 3. If we want to say it that way, but it's going to be best of 5. But the really cool thing about this that changes everything is going to be it is a fearless draft. And what is fearless draft? Fearless draft is going to be all champs that are picked in the first game, second game, third game, and fourth game, right? Or sorry, 1, 2, and 3 will be banned no matter what. So if you pick, this is Kaisa right here. If you pick Kaisa on the first game like they did, Kaisa and Rakan can't be picked by anybody going forward for the next 3 games at the very least.
For me to understand, just to make sure I understand that, basically if I pick a hero, nobody else could pick a hero for the rest of the game, rest of the series, right?
Not 100%. So this fearless draft only applies to the first 4 games.
Okay.
The 5th game, because of how many champs would be banned, right? Almost 25% of the champions in the game would be banned at this point.
Right. So if it goes to a game 5, it resets.
Go to a game 5, it resets, and it's just normal pick ban phase. That's it.
All right.
So first and last are normal pick ban phases, where the middle 3 you can't pick any champion that's already been played.
Yeah. So what about that pick ban style made this competition so exciting? Because this game did go to a game 5, right?
This did go to spoiler alert, it did go to a game 5 for it, right? And the the reason why this is exciting, right? Just for everybody out there listening in general like that, right? It's not easy to get people to watch League of Legends because of the fact that a lot of pros and a lot of coaches are stuck on what works, even when it's not strong. They tend to pick things that they're comfortable with, that they know can work in certain situations, even if they're not the best in the patch. So, a patch happens, they go very cautious with their picks and everything like that.
A lot of comfort picks, you'd say? A lot of comfort picks?
A lot of comfort picks, but it's more of a comfort pick on the overall team comp rather than a person's main, as we call it in League, right? So if you main a character, odds are that the character that you main might not even be worthy in competitive play.
Gotcha. So would you feel like it's more of a strategy thing where it's like teams are picking a comp and that's what they scrim in practice and they try to stick to that?
Yeah, no, because basically what happens because of the pick and ban phase of it all is, you're finding out what doesn't work against your strategy, which kind of lets your opponent know what you're planning to play when you ban certain things so that they can ban accordingly or counter pick accordingly, even if you haven't picked a champion already. So that's really where the head games come in for this. But when you start banning every character that's been played already in a series, the champion pulls on comfort for a lot of coaches and a lot of team players is low. So you get certain picks that just don't happen normally. Right.
In game 2, you can't play the same comp as you played in game 1.
Exactly. You can't play any of those characters. And, also if, someone on the opposing team is really good at Kai'Sa, really good at, Braum, something like that, you can literally just either ban it in those games, because you can still ban any champion that hasn't been picked already.
Right.
Or you can just pick it in the first game and then just make it so they can never play that character.
Interesting. No, there's a lot of cool strategy with that. So how did the strategy play out in this match? We did spoil and say it went to best of 5. How did the fearless ban system work out here? And what part of that, specifically with these teams was exciting?
It allowed T1 to do a reverse sweep on them.
Oh, yeah?
They say, yeah, I mean, essentially that's pretty much what happened. As soon as 20 champions got taken out of the pool of players plus, and again, it's not even at 20 on the second game, right? Or the third game, sorry. 20 champions have already been picked, 20 unique champions. 10 unique champions have now been banned in that game. So 30 champions are off the table in game 3.
Wow.
Out of 168. That's how crazy this stuff gets. So and then game 4 was literally 50 champions were picked or banned out of that game, out of game 4, right? With 160 champions. So 1/3 of characters were taken up already. And in normal league, most of the time, Cassante right over here, right? If you look to the right, the characters that are lined up against the wall on the right here, Cassante is the top laner on red side, right? He is a very strong pick on a regular basis. When he was extremely strong, he was just constantly picked. There would be matches where you're just, oh, look, Cassante's not banned. They're just picking him again. So this allows for a lot of players, not a lot of players, a lot of viewers to not get bored, right? And then real crazy stuff happens because game 4 ends up happening where Jax is a very strong top laner who has a lot of counter picks. But as soon as you play these games like Renekton and Cassante and stuff like that, as soon as these comfort picks or players or champions that are really good against Jax got picked already, Jax just came out blind. It was it's crazy stuff like this. Jax is a really He's an old character, but he's super he's kind of busted when he gets ahead. A lot of champions are, but his kit overall lends to some cracktastic stuff.
Right, and the power creep of characters, the newer characters to counter him weren't there anymore. So yeah, that makes it super interesting. And as far as the depth, do you feel like Fox picked their strong suits early and then just couldn't find the strong suit late? Maybe that was a coaching strategy. Is let's just push for the win early and hope for the 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way, man. As soon as your best picks, as soon as you win on your best picks, and then you go to middle of the road champions for the most part. And it, like, honestly, it's not even really middle of the road, but like as soon as you go off the beaten path for what you've been practicing all year round, right? And in your scrims, it gets like you kind of get mind fucked a little bit. Not to really like curse about it, but like literally you kind of get mind gamed in the fact of, damn, we won our first 2 games where we're like not really inhibited in any way, right? And then as soon as both teams, the good and the supposed bad team, are both inhibited, the bad team wins. Like, it's definitely going to mess you up. Like, if you're the team that's thinking like, oh, we're just, T1 hasn't really done much over the season. Like, they're okay. They're not really a top team. And as far as like academy is concerned, they've been really struggling throughout the season. You're going to go in, disrespect them a little bit. We beat them 2-0. Going into game 3, they probably got a little loose. And then, they were like, damn, all right, we just lost. Well, now there's 50 champions that are gone, like for game 4. So like, what are you picking that you're going to win against, right? And now you're in the dumps again because now you lost at 50 champions gone, thinking you guys were the better players. And then you get uninhibited again and they beat you.
Yeah, I think that's a cool part of this draft system is that in game 5, if it gets to a game 5, it's mostly reset, right? It's reset back to the champions that, that were playable earlier. And like you're basically going toe to toe. Let me have your best versus my best. And we'll compete in that, pick ban phase as well to see what happens. But like, it's going to be interesting and exciting for a game 5, which is kind of what you want after slogging it out like that.
Yeah, no, and again, this is the most exciting match that I've watched in a really long time. And like, this has like good people in it just in general, right? Even though it's academy. This is something that I'm actually like, I want to see brought into every single best of 3, best of 5. I don't want to see the same champions anymore. I've hated it already. I've spoke about it on the channel before where I think like your coaches should be penalized for just having the same thing come out of the woodwork every single week. Like, it's just not good for viewership, which means it's not good for the league, which means it's not good for the esport, which means, it's not good for your pockets. So like, this is just a better thing to happen.
But I'm sure too, there's a degree where coaches and players are worrying about their pockets because, they're professionals. They're trying to maintain professional status and professional money. And, that kind of, their competitive gamers are going to game. They're going to just go at the thing that they feel works the best and et cetera. So like putting in these restrictions creates I don't want to say volatile because volatility can be bad in competitive game, but it creates those moments where it's okay. I'm forcing a coach, forcing a player to push past that. Like, I'm just going to pick whatever's, top tier meta mindset, right? I'm going to just use the best tool in the box where it's like, let me win. Let me get back to the roots of it and let me just try to win basically. And like, it sounds like Fearless kind of pushes that. And hopefully, yeah. What is it? Is it Zach? Is that his name?
Which one? The big green blob?
No, not the champion. The new like director of League Esports.
Oh, Mark Z.
Mark Z.
Yeah,
Mark Z, if you're watching this, if you're out there, take a look at this, consider this as a possibility because I think there's some really good points to raise here. The limitations that this presents for the pick ban phase might create a better match viewership experience. It might create a better competition. We're seeing in the LCS how 2 and 5 team gets into the playoffs. How does that happen? Why does that work? We were complaining about that last week. And sure, maybe it's because there's only 8 teams in the LCS. It could be a quantity issue, but overall, it still doesn't feel good. So maybe something like this will create more competitive sort of nature, more, even in a best of 3, it might just be interesting to see how it limits teams to put forth better strategies or compile things a little bit more, look outside the box that they're used to.
Yeah, I mean, like, it also allows for people, like, again, there's so many champions, and the way players play this game most of the time is that they have a main. They play, one champion a lot of the time. And just so I can say this right now, Huan is a amazing player. Yo, get the fuck off Gragas, homie. Like, just get off the fat man. Like, like you can't play the fat man at all, dude. And also, you shouldn't have brought him into the jungle in the first place. He's like not really good in the jungle, but who knows? That could have been part of their mind game for game one where they just pick Gragas in the jungle. I'm like, I don't really like seeing Gragas in the top lane either because people can't play Gragas. They pick him as like a safe pick, and it annoys the cheese out of me. But anyway, that's like the most annoying part of this game. Look at him, and that's like I hate that skin for Gragas. As a person who loves Gragas, that's my favorite champion right there. So anyway.
And we're getting you all riled up about this. Gragas on the loose in the jungle. Any final thoughts while we wrap this up? Because this was a very exciting match. I do like what you're talking about with the fearless pick ban system, and potentially it could have some really good opportunities in the LCS, our side of the pond for this game. Any final thoughts with those things?
I like if anybody at Riot or League or just in general is like listening to this or they find it in any way, I was negatively impacted by watching how good Fearless Draft was. I'm not even joking. I'm 100% serious. I was negatively impacted with how good Fearless Draft was. I do not want to watch a non-Fearless Draft, to be honest.
All right.
Like 100% honesty. I don't want to watch it, and it negatively impacted my future watching League of Legends. Like that's how good it was and how entertaining it was.
All right, you heard the man. A pretty bold statement, but I don't think it's an unfounded one. So I'd like to see like some conversation happen about this as well. Tell us what your thoughts are on the Fearless Draft. Do you get a chance to watch it this past weekend on the LCK? Did you see this match specifically of T1 Academy versus Fox? Or what are your thoughts about bringing this into LCS or possibly even comp? I don't see how this could really work in a comp situation, but who knows? Maybe extended series kind of maybe works. But either way, would you like to see this in the LCS? Would you like to see it like my man Nick here, the Gragas main Nick, and fighting for the Fearless pick ban style? Let us know in the comments. Hit us up on social media, or Riot, if you're watching, put out a blog. We'd love to hear and see from you. All right. But I think on that note, we're going to wrap up our League of Legends coverage, unless you have an extra thing to add there, Nick.
Nope. I got nothing.
The man said his piece, so it's time for us to peace out and move on to Pokémon World Championship on Honolulu. And there's a couple games that were played at this Worlds event. This is the culmination of everything from the year, all the different international majors. From, I believe, there was one in New Orleans, and I can't remember the other one that happened earlier this year, but this is the final one for 2024, and we'll be looking towards 2025 after this point. There was 4 major games that were played here. Pokemon TCG, the card game. Pokemon VCG, the video game. Scarlet and Violet, I believe. Yeah. Pokemon Go and Pokemon Unite. This possibly might be the last major tournament for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Rumoring, I guess, that we might be seeing a new Pokemon game this fall for the video game competition here. All right. From there, I want to bring us... Yeah, let's move on over into the results on article from Dextero, because we do get a lot of better information from this. And we're going to start with Pokemon Unite. Pokemon Unite has been such a wacky game overall, but it's nice to see that these teams are actually winning money. Because I believe in the last one we saw, there was like 0 prize pool or very limited prize pool. But it was tough pickings out here because Fennel at the top running the board. They were projected to be the winners, and they came out the winners, and they just outclassed a lot of teams in a lot of ways with picks and bans as well as play. They were able to be flexible. They were able to make moments happen and win the game. They take it over Zora Tigers Gaming, winning $100,000, but Zora walking away with $75K, not too shabby. Nick, did you get a chance to watch any of Pokemon Unite this past weekend at Worlds? Because I know you and I have very strong opinions about a game like this, because we do feel like the mobile aspect of it and the design flavor make it harder to be competitive on a serious sort of level.
There's more of an upfront cost with this game in order to like be competitive, unlike other esports just in general. I didn't watch any of Pokemon Unite, I did keep. I was watching Pokemon TCG, but that was the only one that I caught over the weekend, or just in general, not even just over the weekend.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of Unite, but then I was also watching Pokemon Go here. And Pokemon Go is pretty interesting. We had a 16-year-old take first place Worlds. And usually I know there's brackets, but for Pokemon Go here, he was able to take it on the main bracket. Yakai walking away with $20,000 first place here, which feels pretty low. But I know we were also talking about, like, this is definitely more of a mobile aspect game. But even for World Championship here, first place only being 20K. He ended up beating Inadequates for the first place round in the finals. I got to watch that round. That was exciting because Inadequates basically just gave up at a point. He knew he was beat because he got licked down by the Lickitung, and he had a Giratina who just couldn't fight back. Like, it was just a not effective moveset into a Lickitung, and Yakai was able to hold that Lickitung to the last moment and really just get that advantage for the win there, where Inadequates just couldn't pull through on energy or just that. So it was a really exciting finals match. I'm a little disappointed in this prize pool, especially for a game that's so massive around the world. It is a mobile game, but what do you have to add?
Let me put my glasses on, push them up. just remember, like, prize pool is small because the owner of this game refuses to put any prize support in. Remember, Pokemon does not own this game. They don't own it.
Really? This is owned by, it's a Niantic.
Yeah,
but they have to be licensing.
Pokemon and Nintendo does not, like, it's a Niantic game. Yeah, they are associated with it. They do make money, but Niantic makes the money on this game.
Yeah. I'm a little skeptical on that because I know Pokemon has a strong litigation team, and they also have a strong, like, licensing sort of requirements. So I'm surprised that for this they maybe weren't planning on it being, but then they're including it in their World Championships as well. This isn't a Niantic run event. This is a Pokemon run event. And I believe last year Pokemon Company made $10 billion with a B dollars, which was about how much Zelda, Mario, and a couple other games combined made for Nintendo. Or yeah, I think that was the stat. So like, Pokemon is a powerhouse when it comes to that money, etc. And like, I would argue that Niantic has been struggling recently, but like, at the same point, they're probably doing just fine. For them to only put 20K into a prize pool for the Worlds this year feels real bad. I mean, granted, it's more than 20K for the complete prize pool, but either way, a first place for 20K feels bad, man.
Niantic, by the way, made $700 million last year. Like, just like by comparison, this is what I'm saying. Like, the owner of this game does not have prize support for this thing. And everybody who plays this should feel blessed that Nintendo and Pokemon are like, bro, come on under our umbrella. We'll give you some prize support.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that they're not able to strong arm a little bit more of their organization licensing and whatnot, because it is completely property. And like, you look at any of the other Niantic games that they made in the same mobile thing. They made a Harry Potter version of Pokemon Go. They have a Monster Hunter one. I'm not sure how well Monster Hunter is doing, but I know that that Harry Potter version tanked, already closed. So like, it doesn't seem like other IPs are really nailing it in that sort of format. So Niantic, I don't know, they should be kissing up to Pokemon Company for this stuff. And I think Pokemon Pokemon should leverage it a little bit harder here in the championships, because this is what it's all about. It's probably the most accessible Pokemon game out there, especially for a competitive aspect.
No, hell no. Pokemon TCG is hands down super easy. $50 for the World Champions deck, by the way. $54.
Awesome. That's really cool to hear, though. Yeah. I'm saying in my argument for why Pokemon Go would be is because everyone has a cell phone and it's free to start play, and like, literally you can go around and just capture. But yeah, it is more time intensive possibly than the TCG. But you know, unless there's another sort of point to make here on the Pokemon Go prize pools and meta, etc., let's move into TCG.
Okay, let's go.
All right, here we go. For TCG, there is 3 divisions. You juniors, seniors, and masters. To be playing in juniors, must be born in 2012 or later. So you have to be 12 or younger. Seniors, you have to be born between 2008 and 2011. That's that middling sort of pack sort of situation, which I believe makes you have to be between 12 and 18. And then Masters is you have to be born before 2007, which makes me feel old. But anyway, for the prize pools and the winners groupings here for the juniors, we had Sakuya Ota walking away with $50,000. First place. Congratulations on the junior champion here. 2-1 victory over Logan Bailey. All right, moving into the next prize pool for the senior division. It was a 2-0 win for Evan. Congratulations, Evan Pavalsky. $50,000 going into your pocket, walking away, hopefully, And we've talked about this before. Pokemon is fantastic when it comes to stipends, right? They fly people out, and I believe for these younger divisions, they fly their parents out as well. Imagine getting like a nice stipend here to fly out to Honolulu, Hawaii, and then win $50,000, right? That's amazing. And that's great support. That's why the Pokemon Go stuff feels way worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's not their game. That's why I was saying their games, they're like, yo, everybody in the fam, bring everybody along. They're like like speaking on like TCG just in general, TCG, like if you go to the LGSs when local game stores, like when Pokemon weekly tournaments are happening, like it's like, moms or dads bringing in their kids, Like they're literally bringing in their kids. Like both people will play in the same tournament because it doesn't get separated out at LGSs. Just get separated out at these like big tournaments. Yeah. But the game itself is very balanced. Like especially like right now. Like I'm not even joking. Like as a Magic the Gathering player, hear me when I say that the game is incredibly balanced. The top deck that won Iron. Oh my God, it's called like Iron Barbs, I think.
We'll take a look. Yeah, we'll take a look at the deck percentages and the compositions too. But in a second.
Yeah, but it's just balanced. The value to get into it is every deck is like under $100 for the most part. Like the one that won just spiked to $64.87. Like if you were to buy everything at the cheapest possible, like it's a very accessible game, and it's very it's not easy to learn, but it's for ages 6 and up. Right. Think about it that way. Like it's 6 and up game. Magic isn't like that. Digimon isn't like that. Like One Piece isn't like that. Everybody's standard decks are over $300 plus or $2,000 for the current TCGs that exist, except for Pokemon, and they're heavily not balanced. This is a very balanced game.
It's good to see. It's a good feel, especially when they're continued to be so competitive and like provide that support overall from the local game store all the way up to the World Championships here. So it's excellent to see, and like a big shout out to one of our friends who just started playing Pokemon for exactly the reasons you're saying here. And I believe they were able to pick that up and like have a couple people around them play. So like, it's not just an event for you. It's not something to jump in and be a community. It's like you can jump in and bring your friends and family to play as well. Shout out Ewok. If you're watching, listening, let us know. But it's a very accessible meta. It's a very accessible game, and it really comes down to a lot of individual mental mental strategy and mind game, but then also into just like, that strategy of deck, luckiness and not. I watched a few matches that ended up being Reggie Drago versus like a Charizard, and like it was a little bit unlucky, but to watch those players pull something out of nothing was really incredible to see when one deck had a little bit of a disadvantage technically, right? But anyway, moving into the Masters division, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pronounce the last name there because I'm not going to butcher it, but Fernando walking away with $50,000 first place. Senosuke walking away in second place. The match was a 2-1, fairly close. I believe it's it has to be a best of 3. Walking away, so it was anybody's match, and Fernando walked away with first place. Congratulations, both these players doing a great job in this game, in this meta. So that Nick, at this point, I'm going to swap us back into the double screen so I can switch us, but I need to switch us into basically our results for Worlds, the deck results percentage is what we were just talking about. So here we are, event was 2024 World Championship, and the number one deck was what is it? Can you walk us through this a little bit, Nick? I'm having a little hard time seeing.
So this one is for teams. That one's for
team result.
Yeah, that's team results. So like that's this is for the VCG tournament.
Ah, okay. So
Yeah,
we'll get
so
into
this one- this
VCG
one's for-
tournaments. We'll get into VGC in just a second. I thought we were looking at the deck.
No,
the
so like
card game.
the decks that are like really solid right now. There's literally 6 decks that are in that are incredibly playable and are all balanced. Right? It's going to be Iron Thorns. You have the Charizard deck, which is super easy to build. Like even if you wanted to pick up playing Pokemon TCG right now on your phone, you could build the Charizard deck pretty like easily. Overall, Raging Bolt, right? There's the Lugia one, and there's Raging Bolt, and then there's Gardevoir, right? All of these decks do different things. They're all unique. They're all playable, and they're all competitive, and they're all cheap. It's awesome. I don't know how I would go into this if you're not like a Pokemon player, just in general. It'd be a little bit harder to explain. But for the most part, like Lugia, which is like the second most played deck at like 14% of the meta share for their standard. Okay, the deck made 63rd. Like the top result for Worlds was 63rd. Okay, the top deck Regidrago, the top performance on it was 8th place. You get like, Charizard, 10th place. Raging Bolt, 6th place. Iron Thorns was the winner's deck for $64.83. That's you can build that right now. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, one piece is thousands of dollars to play in standard, to play like right now. Magic the Gathering is $500. Like,
is that a rarity issue or is that a collector's issue? Like, what is that?
Because Pokemon wants to make sure that their players can play at reasonable prices. So they will sell bundles and stuff like that have alternate art versions of the cards, so that they're not like the chase versions of the cards or something like that. There's a chase and then there's a regular one that happens in the set. And then the regular one will come out in bundles. Or they'll make a new alternate art one in like a $15 bundle. Like you can grab Charizard bundles right now that you can pick up the Charizards instead of cracking them from packs or buying them singular. But like you can always buy these like singular in general. So like Pokemon in general wants their players to play. They want to be able to make sure that their players are playing at the LGSs, that it's viable for them to go to tournaments because all of this, including Worlds, generates more money. Unlike other companies.
Yeah, and like that's such a weird thing that Nintendo and Pokemon have done in the past. Like Nintendo will stifle an esports scene almost a lot of times, and then Pokemon will kind of does the opposite. They're able to like enfold that, and like that's one of the big reasons. Besides all the merch they're able to sell at the Pokemon Center at Worlds, they're able just to like include you and have the feedback loop work in a positive way where players feel good. I rarely hear people complaining about Pokemon, the card game, the same way that I hear Magic players complaining about Magic the Gathering, right? And like I don't think that's a hyperbolic statement. I think players are generally happier with Pokemon than they are with the state of Magic.
Like yes and no, right? Like overall, like Magic's a fun game, and basically it's just the ideals of the company is usually where people are coming down that makes a problem for all their players. Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, they're one of the worst companies I've ever seen in my whole entire life. The people running it right now need to be like run over by 18-wheelers. But
come on, like, that's strong.
I'm not even joking. Like in comparison, right? In comparison, Pokemon has booster packs. Okay. Well, they have booster packs. They have tins that contain booster packs in them. They have things that contain the booster packs in them. Magic the Gathering has a now play booster where we used to just have like a booster pack. Now it's a play booster Then there's a collector booster, which has alternate art cards that basically you can try to get with secret cards that come out from that are reprints and blah, 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 and this, that, and the third. And then they're now deciding, and I'm not even joking with this, they're taking the rares out of your packs and they're selling you a pack with no rares in it. I'm not even fucking with you. That's what Wizards of the Coast is literally doing, and Pokemon is selling you packs. That's it. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, there's a pack of cards.
I think,
and that's it.
That might be a rant for us to go into next week, because we're going to be expecting the updated ban list for Magic the Gathering. So we'll see what kind of updates that happens next week there. And that might be something we can kind of bring to light a little bit more about the habits and the behavioral of Wizards of the Coast and how they're selling the game versus Pokemon here. But I was able to bring up, actually get a day 2 final standings with deck list. Let me just make sure it's just readable. There we go. And we can see, you know, the stuff that won. Iron Thorns taking it number 1 with a 14-2-0 record, drawing out twice. Roaring Moons was the competition in the finals here with a 13-3 record. Miradon, Regidrago, Raging Bolt / Teal Mask, Regidrago, Lugia, Arctops, Charizard, Pidgeot. That's the first Charizard we're seeing, Charizard EX with the Pidgeot EX, and they placed 10th. So yeah, I think you did kind of I think you did recap a lot of the decks here, and a lot of this stuff doesn't seem accessible. I think I saw the Regidrago deck you can buy right now for $200, which is still leaps and bounds less than any Magic deck. Well, not any, but a lot of Magic decks.
Also depends on like art and stuff like that too, right? Because I guarantee you can get the price down on those things. But like the thing that like everybody should take notice of is when you stare at this final for the top 22, right? Words stand out to you, but they're not all the same. You know what I mean? Like, Miradon EX is going to stand out at you because it's like an M word, right? But like, if you look, they're just like, it's very spaced with how close Iron Thorns is compared to the next Iron Thorns on this list, right? Which is 18th, 1 in 18. That's like, that becomes player skill, player issue, stuff like that. So like, as I was saying, like all of them are pretty close together. They all do different things. They're all pretty competitive, and they're all relatively cheap.
Right. Like, you're seeing like 5 or 6 different deck types have some representation here. I think the only one that kind of stands out as being unique is Chen Pao right here. And like, if we scroll down, I don't see another one in the top 50 perhaps, but like this could have been that like they had good matchups kind of mentality, right? Like, and that's a lot of this too, but like it's still healthy to see here. You know, Iron Thorns having 10% representation in the top 20 rankings, right? Yeah, Lugia having like 3 or 4 or 5 different decks being played, 3 or 4 in the top 20. Regidrago, definitely by far the most representation, probably likely the strongest
Makes
one.
Sense.
But even then, they weren't able to make the moves. The V-Star version or the EX, not the EX, sorry, I'm looking at Charizard. But yeah, you have a lot of variety here. You have a lot of counterplay here. So it comes down to matchups, comes down to a little bit of luck of what you draw, a little bit of who you're getting placed against, and then a lot of player skill to see how you can overcome it. So it's definitely something you love to see. And I know we can harp on how Magic, cough, cough, grief hasn't been doing it. But, you know, well, maybe that part of the conversation we'll save for next week there.
Yeah, no, it's like, for me, it's just more about like, you know, how well, you know, I should take the positive road on it, right? Like how well Nintendo or the Pokemon company is treating the wallets of their players just in general. And again, Pokemon is a very collectible game. Like recently the prices and stuff like that, it's a little bit of a different story, but like overall Pokemon, like besides the CT scanner too, like whatever. But like, that's a different story. But like overall, they have a very good relationship with like their players just overall, as far as like TCGs are concerned. And to speak on like the Drago and stuff like that, like Drago's expected to be like in so much of the top 22 right there because it's literally 30% of the meta share. Like a lot of people like this deck. It's kind of where Charizard used to be months and months ago when Charizard first came out. Like it was very easy to pick up. It's very easy to understand, very easy to play. That was Charizard. I literally do not play the Drago deck, like the Reggie Drago deck. So, I don't think it's really that hard to play against because I play Charizard. I've had Charizard for months, and just to let you know, Shen Pao, right, is like an eighth. It's like an eighth deck. As far as like the meta share is concerned.
Eighth what? Like, okay, representation? Okay.
Representation, right? And Roaring Moon, which got second, is 10th place. So like usually what that means is like these players that are playing these decks enjoy these decks and are very good at piloting these decks. Is usually what it comes down to, which is why they performed like so well. But that goes to tell you how balanced the game is.
Yeah, especially for the world stage, right? Like this is the biggest tournament of the year, and to see this much diversity in that, literally and figuratively, it's great to see. And like definitely a lot of good points to be made there. But at this point, I do want to move us into VGC because we've been running for a long time. We're running hot. So let's move into the video game aspect and take a look at the prize winners for that. Kevin Hahn taking first place in the junior division, 30K prize pool in his pocket. Winning a 2-1 against Tatsumomi Shimaki. I'm fumbling over myself. I apologize. Tatsumomi, congratulations on second place, 20K in your pocket. Then we're into the senior division for the video games. This was I did catch a couple of these. These were some exciting matches and some like very interesting meta shifts as far as who they're playing. But we got Rei Yamanaka walking away with first place, $30,000, beating Luke Kroll 2-1 in the finals. Congratulations, Luke. Congratulations, Ray, on first and second place. And the VGC Masters division, Luca taking away 30K. And this is the one I did bring up a little bit earlier. I had some incorrect information, but top results in the team that Luca was running here. And this was the interesting thing because you're starting to see a lot of different people. You see some duplicates as far as multiple characters that are Pokemon that people are running, but you're seeing the strategy and what people thought their read is the meta and how it worked out. And generally speaking, top four, just a handful, but it's almost like a little bit of rock, paper, scissors here, right? You have a Pelipper to kind of counter some like aura, what's it called? The battleground effects that's out there. You've got you've got the Gardevoir going in, making some the Hisuian. This isn't the Hisuian, but Iron Hands. I can't remember the name. It's anyway, right?
Makuhita?
You're not I'm sorry, Makuhita. Yeah,
I think so.
Iron Hands. You've got a lot of variety in the teams being chosen here, and that counterplay and pickability, and what they're able to do. And like again, it's going back into the card game sort of mentality. You love to see this, right?
Yeah, no, like I mean, Urshifu is a big, nice standout for the tournament, right? You can see him bottom left, right, the number 4 slot, and then there's some uniqueness going throughout it, but Pokemon VCG is a fun beast, and they only get to have 4 of these guys per round. So like when you're like each for the match, you'll have a couple, like it'll be like first to 3. Or whatever it is, right? I can't remember exactly. Like this 9. He had 9 wins, 2 losses. But you only get to pick 4 of your Pokemon going into each battle, basically. So like what your strategy is and everything like that. Unless they changed up the meta, because I didn't watch this one. I was only watching the TCG overall.
Yeah, it was something. It was cool, and like you said, Urshifu is like the one consistent in the top 4, top 5. But generally speaking, like you're seeing a huge variety of different matchups, different Pokemon being played here across the board. So again, very exciting seeing. I got to watch a couple rounds of it, and like the mental aspect of it, where what you're putting out when was a huge part of it, and it always is in the VGC. But that's like the little thing here we wanted to point out where it makes it that much more exciting because, you know, you do need to land that, you do need to hit those accuracy moves, but at the same time, you can set yourself up with advantages, disadvantages, you can buffs and items, etc., and it makes for a very exciting match. It's always fun to watch.
Yeah, no, it's definitely always fun to watch, and there's always some weird stuff that ends up happening at some point in VGCs. For the year, like some random Pokemon or a player literally attacks his own Pokemon instead of like attacking the opponent to win the game. Like this has literally happened before. So it gets a little crazy. There's been some spicy stuff that even happens.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of trying to point out too with the Among Us and number 2 and the Pelipper. Let me make sure it is a Pelipper. Yeah, I was right. You know, that creates a little bit of a different variety to counter some of the things you might be expecting to see. It might be expecting to get played out. And like those little extra side pieces are not inconsequential. And let me say that again. The little things matter, basically. All the different aspects. So you have here we go. A Flutter Mane. Is that a Flutter Mane? It doesn't look like the icon for it, but I mean, yeah. You know, they're coming in as like a not a final stage evolution kind of stuff. And like the further you go down, you're kind of seeing how that their choices are happening and where it's working, etc. So it's always fun to see. It's always an interesting read on the meta and how players want to attack. And then the mind game between each other is always a great time. So congratulations to Luca. Congratulations to Yuta, first and second place respectfully in that division there. I think that kind of wraps up our Pokemon coverage. We do have an interesting story that was a disqualification on the TCG, but we are running heavy, and I want to check with you just to make sure you're good if we want to keep running, because I would like to do Overwatch 2 patch notes, but we're pretty pressing it on time. How you feeling, dude?
I think I can handle patch notes. Get that beat down.
All right, so we're going to skip over the little bit of drama for the Pokemon Championship that occurred, but TLDR, there was a top 8 game that where they got disqualified and kind of didn't make it after that point for a bad matchup, but we might cover that next week. Take a look at our socials if you want to see more info about that. We might cover it over there. All right. Let's get into this. We're on the final topic. Home stretch, boys. Grab some water, stay hydrated. We're almost there. We're going to be running down the patch notes from today for Season 12 of Overwatch 2. The new comp season is out. A new hero, Juno, is launched and basically available day 1. We've got the patch notes, and let's get to it. So the first part here I'm going to run down quickly because it's just a lot of the fluff. New Frontiers are introducing Juno as a new support hero. Here we are. A little background about what they are, what they play, etc. But then they're also adding a new game mode, Clash. We got to test this about 2 seasons ago. I think it's season 10. Basically, it's tug of war with King of Hill maps. They have made some objective changes, whereas the last point used to feel oppressive to the attackers and more defensive aspects where the attackers wouldn't even bother with it. They have updated it, so now you can get points for getting a third of it. So it does make it worth it for the attackers, not just to bail. All right. They added a new map with Clash. So there's 2 maps with this new Clash mode. Throne of Anubis, got to play it today. It looks really cool. It's interesting to see they're bringing back the 2 CP sort of themologies with Hanaoka, Hanamura, and Throne of Anubis with Temple of Anubis. They're bringing back the same sort of themes and map stylings. Mastery updates we don't need to talk about. That's just if you like. I like them, but if you're looking to play, they got Pharah and Zarya updates. General updates, more void slots. I know, Nick, you're going to like this, but they added more void slots. They have 3 pinned ones and then 12 recent ones. The recent ones work in a priority system, so you're not guaranteed to avoid those players, but it will try to if it can, so it does not impact your queue times. Pin slots never move, so you can hold on to those as long as you want. I know, Nick, you've got a few of those that you're going to want to hold on to for more than 7 days. But all the details here specifically right there, man. You're face palming a little bit. What are you thinking?
This game is cancerous.
Why?
Like because it's toxic. The game is so toxic that we need to make sure you can avoid 27 people at any given time. Like that's crazy, man. Anyway, that's why I'm laughing at face popping. That's so much.
It's 15, but I swear it is. It's not that it's necessary. It's also about the comp aspect of it, where it's like I just don't want to play with this person. I want to farm SR from them. So like there is a bit of that comp strategy on this, but I hear you a little bit. Let's moving into the next point here. Spawn system changes. There. From a quick play hacked a while ago, they were toying with how people respawn, how fast you respawn, the timings, everything. They currently had a group respawn. They're going to change that into a wave respawn. Generally speaking, it's staying the same, but now if I die first, within the first 6 seconds of you dying, you'll basically spawn with me. So your spawn will be less if you die close to when I die as the first spawn. And it's basically a 6-second window to get those waves of the spawns. It works a lot like, I guess, WoW does, the Battlegrounds. Instead of a 30-second timer, it's a 6-second timer. If for whatever reason you die I die and then you die 7 seconds later, then you're going to have your own spawn timer. But it's just a gentle nudge to encourage players to play together here. And it's interesting to see how this game is encouraging player behavior in this way. And like some might argue this is a little complicated or overcomplicated, like we've talked about with armor, the armor changes previously where you need a math degree. I think sometimes it's necessary because like you said, I think one of the cancerous parts of this game is just that learning curve. Some people really struggle and are on the struggle bus for how to play, when to play, especially in the medal ranks. And like that includes us as far as being in the medal ranks. But this is one of those gentle behavioral nudges, I think, in the game that might make a big difference to play together.
Sure. I mean, like one thing that I think it might target, like this specifically, might be like nudging players not do a certain aspect, right? Whereas like imagine waiting 6 seconds to kill a person because their team just like, you're going to delay them and not kill them. You need to wait 7 seconds. Like you're going to, like, is this guy going to sit there for 7 seconds for you to like delay them to like the next wave or something on that? Like, when D.Va gets demeched and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's an interesting point. It's an interesting point. And I do feel like the medal ranks aren't doing that right now. So they're not going to do it later. But the top end that does it, and I know I've seen Overwatch League hold people, especially baby divas, try to stagger them out as much as possible. You're lasting 10, 12 seconds easily. But those are also games where the teams group up. They don't walk in, just W key forward and solo 1v5 the other team. I've had plenty of Genjis even just this week trying to do that. So we'll see how it works. I know one other big change here is that they're going to be adding a speed boost pad to Flashpoint because they've heard feedback where it can feel like a walking sim if you die. But like you said, you say this all the time with League of Legends, get out of gray screen. Stop dying basically. So if you feel like it's walking simulation, stop dying. And like that can solve a lot of that lower bracket sort of angstiness of it. But this is a big patch as well because we're getting another mid-rank reset. They're going to be soft resetting ranks for all players for Season 12, trying to test out this cadence. If once a year makes sense or 6 months, currently development comment. Our plan is to reset ranks every 6 months alongside larger updates that shake up the metagame, which we are going to be seeing in a little bit later with new hero like Juno, as well as the game mode, and then the mobile healers getting, mobile heroes getting nerfed. Lower HP. So that's happening on this one. They're adjusting predictive ranks, etc., and how it's being represented in match. I believe later this patch, we're going to be seeing more controls on muting and muting chat and muting voice, as well as volume knobs in the tab screen. So that might be awesome to see. Any sort of comments or takeaways for you, Nick, before we move into the hero updates?
None.
It's a feature that's been asked about for a while, and they're finally doing it, Nick. So, can't complain on that. You're giggling to yourself, man. all
Because
day.
everything is like you guys like there's so much patch notes for like other players in this game. Like I like, and this is like no real disrespect towards the game, but like it feels like every other patch note has something where you're like your interactions with other players has like a patch note for it. It's just a weird
Yeah,
thing.
man. And it kind of makes a lot more sense now because Aaron Keller, in an interview in his blog on 6v6, this game was designed initially for PvE and then fell into a PvP sort of mindset. And now it is pivoted to a PvP. It pivoted a while ago and just didn't know it. And now they're officially like declaring, oh, we're PvP. So now they're finally doing things that people have been asking for years later. And like you're saying, a lot of that is player behavior. I don't know if you remember being in the 6v6 queue before roll queue, and we've talked about this, and I know that's the big discussion overall, but generally speaking, like every game was 5 DPS and one dude who would maybe try to go healer, and even then they'd play healer like a DPS. So it's always been player behavior. That's a problem. Always been.
I don't know.
All right.
It's a larger conversation. Like honestly,
For sure.
like,
Absolutely.
So I'll just be quiet.
All right, so while you're quiet, let's move into the hero updates. First and foremost, they're talking about mobility as being a powerful thing. Something we actually just talked about recently when we were talking about our ban percentages in the EWC tournament for Overwatch 2. We saw Lucio's and Anna's and Winston's getting banned the most, as well as a little bit of Kiriko. So we're going to see how that's impacting here because they seem to be representing that same mentality. They're going to basically be nerfing the handful of high mobility heroes to 225 HP, knocking it down 25 HP and possibly increasing their potency elsewhere. That's their note here, and that's their intention for this patch note. All right, first and foremost in the tanks, D.Va, the matrix is getting reduced from 3.5 seconds into 3 seconds. They generally felt like D.Va wasn't really accomplishing anything more. That change that they had in the last patch to make tanks tankier and awesomer basically really didn't do anything. It just caused frustration to players, so they're reverting it back to 3 seconds, and they kind of expect things not to change. D.Va's still going to be strong, etc. And it might be just about what else is strong around D.Va for Smart. Just a quick note on that. I think with lower HP, high mobility characters, D.Va might still be the strong suit because she might be able to isolate and solo that person a little bit easier. Run them down kind of thing. All right, moving into Orisa. Impact damage on the Javelin Spear has been increased 20. They're saying Orisa is still underperforming, so we're increasing the impact damage of Javelin to better reward accuracy with the ability. I can get behind that, but like Orisa's a lot of power creep. She's not strong until she is, and then when she is, she's like over strong. All right. Moving into the next one, Zarya. Okay, Particle Cannon. The secondary fire is getting increased the damage from the minimum and maximum. They basically just want to make it more impactful, make it feel better, because when she's microwaving you with her left click, it feels good, but when she's throwing right clicks, it doesn't really feel like you're doing anything, and I think they didn't adjust this when they increased the HP sizes a while ago. All right, so Nick, feel free to jump in, give me your insight and thoughts on stuff if you want, but I'm going to just keep trucking along otherwise, okay?
Keep trucking along. If I have something, I'll say something.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. We're going to move into the damage heroes now, and this is where we're going to start seeing the HP impact. First and foremost, Echo. Echo's a very high mobility. She's suffered a little bit from the armor changes in the Kaiju meta patch, but generally speaking, she's been played a lot still, especially at high levels for her burst damage, beam damage at 50%. Her base health has been reduced from 250 to 225, so only a 25 health decrease. Hanzo is the next hero to suffer from the base health reduction, 250 down to 225. But this one's interesting because the developer comment here, let me read it actually out. Hanzo doesn't quite fit the category of being as highly mobile as the other heroes we're moving to 225 HP. But like Widowmaker, Hanzo has the potential long-range lethality merits. So he's a sniper like Widowmaker, and they're gonna make him 225 because now with heroes being that threshold of 225 HP, he's now able to one-shot heroes again, which could be a nice buff, coincidentally, for a Hanzo. And that smaller HP is going to push him to play further outside of range from other heroes. Definitely an interesting aspect to it, a little caveat asterisks on it. Would like to see how that plays out as the season continues. Next up, Junkrat. His projectile size is now reduced by half after the second ricochet. So after it bounces a second time, how big the projectile is going to be is going to go down. Interesting change. They're still rewarding players who can hit directs without any bounces, but if they feel like the unskilled shots of geometry are happening, they're getting lower projectile sizes, so they're not going to just snowball into people. You're not going to get logged by them.
Isn't that like the point of the AoE character? Like he's like an AoE character mostly when he's doing these like little bombs and stuff into tight areas. Shouldn't it be more about like rewarding players to not play in those disadvantaged areas where you're shooting ricochets, like that underground tunnels and stuff like that, where little choke points and stuff like that?
Right, and just because of the way his it's area denial above anything else. You kind of just chuck the things, but even after one or two ricochets, you don't control. So it's not so much skill at that point, and you can get good shots, good bounces, bad bounces. But again, this might be an aspect where it's like they're seeing a lot of players fall victim to the quote unquote random Junkrat nades, and I'm not against this change. I'd like to see this happen. I think this might be an interesting one. It's going to change how they bounce as well. Projectiles preserve slightly more velocity on ricochet, so the first and second ricochets might go a little bit further. Maybe it's just one bounce for skill and then two bounces are unskilled, but this might be something where they felt like players were falling victim to the random bounces too much, and a nice compromise of the two, of area denial as well as some skill shots, and not unskilled people just walking aimlessly into it. All right, moving into Sojourn next. Sojourn, I'm going to start with the comment because I think this is an interesting one. They're reducing the maximum damage of Railgun's secondary fire. After reducing the maximum damage, which is what they did previously, she's felt less effective. I know we saw her picked a lot less, and she wasn't even banned at the EWC with the pro players. So pro players are not respecting her. They definitely like that skill shot of the secondary fire. So what they're aiming to do, to finish out this quote, these changes are to make it more accurate, the primary fire, and better reward accuracy by increasing the energy gain from headshots. So the changes are primary fire, your left click, the spread is reduced from 2 to 1.6. Critical hits now gain 10 energy, so you're going to be gaining that faster if you're hitting that dink box at the top. And then energy degeneration rate is going to be reduced from 33 to 15 after 7 seconds. So energy is going to decay slower after not using it. You're going to gain energy faster from left clicking when you hit crits, and the primary spread is going to be tightened up just a little bit. It might help on the feel, and it definitely makes it more of a Sojourn 76 vibe. I just know that these projectiles struggle on armor against tanks, with a lot of lower people probably aiming only at tanks with armor.
Yeah, these buffs should see her like get moved back into, a more sustainable play rate for the player base.
I think so. I think so at the top level too. Maybe a solid B tier where you're a pressure character with a little bit of like mobility burst.
Yeah, I can see
All right. Moving into another mobility character that actually gets hit from the health pool nerfs, Sombra. Base health reduced from 250 to 225. Virus's impact damage is going from 25 to 35, so a plus 10 on Virus, just the impact damage. And stealth movement ability is getting increased from 45% speed to 60% speed. The comment here is the increased movement speed while in stealth will better enable Sombra to get advantageous positions, which is huge for Sombra. You need to be in position and ready with your timing, so moving faster is going to let you get there quicker. And then they finish the comment saying, be slightly more evasive with the new lower health. I don't know if you need to be more evasive in stealth because you should have been doing it beforehand, but, it is a little bit of that bonus buff for nerfing her stealth. And I don't think that stealth is that health bonus. I'm tongue-tying myself. That base health reduction is really a nerf. You either kill her or you don't. And I think a lot of lower elo players struggle with killing her, even with her out. But yeah. Speed faster, virus impact damage a little bit more, so she's going to secure the kills quicker. The ambush kills a little bit quicker. All right, moving into Torbjorn. I need to take a quick drink, Nick.
That's fine. I'll take over this one. Yo, why is he like? Oh, so he's a real mobile champion. So he lost 25 health.
So actually, yeah, that was my first impression too. But if you read into it, really, they're reducing the base health down, but they're increasing the armor. So really, they're just shifting HP from base health to armor, which again asks why. But it kind of makes sense in the sense of he's supposed to be an anti-flanker, so make him a little bit sturdier against flanking characters, it seems, mobile characters.
Yeah, and maybe the effective health remains the same, but overall it might be an overall nerf for him. You never know, depending on the team count, right?
I'm gonna call it's a buff. The effective health, because there's more armor, means there's more survivability, a little bit more damage reduction, especially with the changes to armor recently. I think this makes him sturdier. I think it gives him a little bit more effective health. Does that make him good? Who knows? Because you can pilot Tracer with low HP and have crazy effective health, right? But that might also be just because of Tracer's kit. Be interesting to see if his play rate gets increased. All right. Moving into support, going to start a speed run this last section here. Alari's basically had a lot of representation in the last patch. We saw Alari a lot in the EWC. So maximum ammo for the rifle, the damage is going to be reduced from 16 to 14. And then the ultimate Captive Sun, the projectile collision size is reduced from 0.15 to 0. I tested this on the game earlier today, and just straight up, it was like pixel perfect. I could just like shoot it past the wall. And it was really tight. So interesting that they're making that change where they felt like it was accidentally detonating on things that they didn't want it to be detonating. So they're trying to help people. All right, next up, Juno. Juno was a character that was tested a couple weeks ago, free trial about a month ago. On the strategy side, she performed strongly in most every category, particularly overperformed in healing output. These changes right now improving her utility while pulling back lightly on her healing. I think that's something that we kind of saw and kind of thought was about right for the launch state here. And they're adding a couple of quality life stuff. So Juno is added to the lineup. She's available for competitive play. Her base health is 225, not 250. As a highly mobile character, it makes sense. Her primary fire is down from 34 shots into 28 shots. So just one less sort of round. And that's 28 shots per second. A little bit less healing, a little bit less damage off of that. But I don't think it ruins her break points initially. Her right click, pulsar torpedoes, damage and healing impact increased from 75 to 85, heal over time reduced. So just trying to shift the power into the immediate rather than the over time, because it did feel like why bother use this secondary ability in the middle of a fight. It's usually to open something and it's usually to clean up. That was how we saw a lot of players using it. Next up, the Hyper Ring. This is the meat and potatoes of her kit, especially for a team utility aspect. Deploy range has been increased by 3.5 meters, so it shoots it out further. It means it catches a lot more players in the initial burst when you hit the button, and then it's further ahead of you, so you can get a continued buff of speed when you pass through the ring. The cooldown of this is also reduced from 16 seconds to 14 seconds, putting power more into the speed utility, like they said. And then finally, the orbital rate, her ult, the beam travel speed is increased from 1.9 to 2.25 meters per second, which I think was huge because you'd let the ult go and the ult would kind of just feel really close to you, right in front of you, and then kind of move slowly. So it didn't feel like it would follow you if you wanted to like press or push. And that's a lot of what Juno is. She's a pressure character. The ring is great to retreat people, but those key moments like to send it, put the ring out, you can rush down somebody really quick. The ultimate didn't feel like you'd follow up on that pressure really well. So I like this change. It's cool to see, and it'd be interesting to see how players take to it. Next up, Kiriko. Kiriko is another mobile character. HP is being reduced to 225, that bracket. But the big thing here is that they're shifting the power away from headshot damage and into increased body damage. So it doesn't move her breakpoints on squishy players, but it does move, I guess, a better chance of damage on the tanks. Most of the time, players aren't going to be hitting the headshots unless you're higher level or you're very skilled there. So like they're kind of punishing that play style where you're just able to double dink like a lot of stuff. But they are shifting it into just being able to do constant damage pressure from further away kind of stuff. You know, overall, not a bad change. I don't think it's really going to change Kiriko's play. She's still going to 2-hit squishies with double dink, double criticals, but she's going to be able to put more pressure on tanks, I think, here. Next up, Lifeweaver. Oh, I do want to say that 225 HP is going to make a huge difference. She's going to be a little bit more mindful of how she's going in and out. She's going to push her out a little bit quicker. I think that's going to be a huge part of it for sure. So, Lifeweaver is getting a bigger change because devs have thought it's been kind of whack. I think players have too. So, a developer comment on this one: the pedal platform was too easy to waste if players accidentally ran over it. Absolutely true. Generally, it was done without intending to because you're not in voice comms. People aren't organizing and working together, and like it just felt blah. So now the pedal platform actually works like an elevator. It goes back to the ground if nobody is standing on it. They're also reducing the HP of the pedal platform so that people can counter it better. I think it's going from 400 HP to 300. Yep. And then Healing Blossom, the left click heal, will now passively charge at a slower rate. So if you're not doing anything or not healing, it'll passively charge the healer slowly, the heal thing. So you can just instantly throw one out as soon as you start healing. All right.
Yeah, that should be a nice change overall.
Playing it
he's
earlier.
Like my most disappointing. No, I was just going to say he's like my most disappointing healer that I want to play. But it's just he has a very frustrating healing style compared to the other healers. Just because it's so, it feels like, and I'll say this, like, I don't know, like it probably would be too much, but it really feels like it should only be one piece of ammo whenever when you're charging the thing. Like, I really don't like the multiple shots being off while you're having to charge something. I think that's pretty frustrating play style for him, but.
Yeah, I think maybe numerically kind of it's just about visualizing how much you have, but yeah, that overall I don't think is the. He feels like molasses a lot of times. It feels clunky. He feels frustrating to play against. His kit feels very specific. Like you want Life Grip to just work well. It's a great move in WoW, but it has a hard time translating into Overwatch for the vulnerability. The way he heals, the auto lock on it. Can feel oppressive where it's just too much. His dash, just being able to squirm and kite, and he's very mobile in that way. But I'm surprised they're not reducing his HP down. It just feels bad to play against, and a lot of times it doesn't feel very rewarding to play as, because it's like you're not really making great choices and you're not able to coordinate well. We'll see if this actually does anything, but this feels like a soft rework. Let me get into the actuality of what's happening. Healing Progress can now charge passively, which we heard already, and no longer reduces movement speed when you're holding your heal, which is good. Previously, it was first couple seconds, it didn't reduce your speed, and then after, if you held it for too long, it reduces your speed. Originally, first release, it would always reduce your speed as you move to charge it. It didn't make sense, so they've gotten rid of that completely. Next up, the pedal platform. Yeah, very good.
Good change.
Duration. The pedal platform has been interesting. It's an elevator now. It's the best way to think about it. You throw it on the ground, somebody stands on it, it goes up. If you jump off of it if you jump off of it after 2 seconds, it returns back to the ground. If nobody is standing on it, the duration doesn't count. So if I stand on it for 3 seconds, it stays there, I jump off, it stops counting, and then it goes back down. So I still have 9 seconds left of its duration, which is great. It means it's going to be everywhere when you want it. It's going to be a place, and you can use it for players to maybe get over terrain. Maybe the play is you just throw it at a part of the map that you want them to go over rather than walk around when they come back from respawn.
Yeah.
Right? That might be a cool way to play it. Maybe it's useful. Maybe it's useful in the fight more. But I still feel like the health being reduced is big. From 400 to 300, it's going to give some counterplay to it, but I'm not sure how much it's going to be, because effectively this is like the same as a Mei wall, and Mei walls are still fucking so good. Pardon my French, but they are. They're just so good. Lastly, Lifeweaver's escape the dash. They've reduced the healing on it. I do feel like they might need to do a little bit more. They might need to be a little bit more aggressive on this to make him worthwhile as far as a kill target, but maybe that's the point here. All right. Any comments on Lifeweaver before I move into the last couple?
No, just like, it's such a good change to get rid of the movement speed reduction like that. Like, honest to God, like whoever proposed that probably should have just been fired. Like, everybody else gets like a movement speed boost, and this guy's like, no. Like, we're going to make you move slower for healing. How dare you? That's such a silly thing to do in a game all about movement and, the macro and micro of the map.
I imagine a lot of that was we gave him something, so we need to take something away, especially off the beginning. So he has all these different cool things. He had a dying passive when he first came out. When you die, he'd basically leave a health pack that enemies and friendlies could pick up. So, like, he had so many different like little specific mechanics. So I'm sure they thought, well, we should take something away. But yeah, it didn't feel good. And I'm glad that they're kind of consolidating and making it more efficient and like direct. All right, moving into Mercy here. Base health reduced from 250 to 225, so makes sense. She is dashing around. She can Guardian Angel all over the place. But the other change that they're doing is they're increasing her primary fire, the healing beam, from 55 to 60 HPS. And their secondary damage boost is going from 25 damage percent boost to 30 damage pursuit. I think we're getting back into Mercy, and we might be seeing Mercy meta occur again. I wonder, though, with the Guardian Angel movement abilities, if it's still going to be a little bit on the weak side, where she's still going to be able to be chased down, etc.
You never know. Mercy with some snap tapping. Let's go. Callbacks.
Big
Absolute
callbacks.
No, but this is like, she hasn't felt great for a while, right? Like, compared to the other heroes, like, you're literally choosing. It's the same thing with like Lifeweaver. It's like you're having to like really be punished to choose to heal or deal damage, right? And like move with the team. So, there's some like good changes. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe the Mercy meta does come back.
I think the biggest part about this is the 30% damage boost going from 25 to 30. It's going to change breakpoints, especially when you have a lot of heroes getting HP reduced. So it'll be interesting to how it plays out. Is it actually viable? Is it competitive? Because, Nick, we're all offense here, right? Anytime we're playing comp, we see people, everyone's just W keying in and just going for offense. You rarely see a defensive sort of mindset.
I didn't even know Mercy could heal for like 8 months.
All right clicks. And speaking of all right clips, we know you Moira mains are looking forward to this. Moira's HP is being reduced to 225 because, again, she's a mobile hero. She should be a little bit more risk reward in that way. And her secondary damage is increased from 60 to 65 per second. So we're going to definitely see more Moiras in the backline here, but it's going to be a lot riskier for that to happen. How much risky? I don't know. They can set it up and just fade out. Who knows? Lucio, the mobile character here, HP is being reduced to 225, and the primary fire damage is being moved from 18 to 22. I'm not sure how much this really moves the needle overall. I think this is kind of like a no-brainer, but I do think Lucio is just going to get picked over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, you just gave a buff to a character that, like, well, sorry, we lost some health here, but, you gave a buff to a character that's already being picked. Like, and now those pinks from across the map for no reason while this guy's wall riding is just going to piss people off more. Like, pink, pink, pink.
Yeah, and especially with the breakpoint changes, maybe that Mercy's going to be pocketing that Lucio.
yeah, could you imagine? He's so
I doubt. I'm sure there's going to be some some meme Reddit froggers out there doing it, but we'll have to see. And those are generally the patch notes here. I think it's overall interesting change. The mobility character adjustments is going to shake things up a bit. It'll be fun to see overall. And I'm just trying to speed through this category, overall. Any final thoughts with Overwatch, and then final thoughts for the episode, Nick?
Nothing for Overwatch. It's going to be pretty interesting. I'm not too excited for like Juno in general. I played it a little bit, wasn't too excited for it, but I am excited for Lifeweaver changes. Just in general, I think maybe the Moira changes. I don't know. I think some of the changes on the healers or the supports rather is like a little weird, like reducing their health. Like I don't know. For me, it's like I think the healers should heal more on themselves rather than everybody else. But and maybe if they have lower health, but that's for a different thing. I think that's weird, reducing their health. Like so, Hanzo is gonna pick one of them off easier from across the map. Is like that's pretty like ridiculous. Like 20% of your team just gets taken out from being one shot across the map.
That's how it was before season. That was how it was before season 9, right? Those like one shots at the choke.
Bro, this is what gave you Hanzo mains in the first place. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not to you. That's like to the developers of this game. Like, the reason he was binking and headshotting people across the map is the reason why I have a guy who won't switch off Hanzo and combo all the time. Like, thanks. You just multiplied that by 2.
No.
Like,
you sure it's not the Twin Dragon cinematic from back in the day where everybody just wanted to be a Genji or Hanzo main? Because I would put my money on that.
They're ninjas. Ninjas are cool.
Robot ninjas.
I get it. Yeah, robot ninjas. We get it. But that's weird. Just like reducing the health pool on support characters that kind of like they're not like the easiest people to kill, but like a nice tracer.
In fairness, too, if they're poking their heads out, they might be positioning. Their timing and positioning might be off. And, like, in fairness, the HP change was to a lot of mobile heroes, or a handful at least. So, like, it's almost like how Tracer used to be really good against everybody, but then the armor changes made her kind of like whatever to tanks. This might be an interesting change for Hanzo because now it's like, okay, he's getting that one-shot potential back, so he's going to be focusing more on like spamming out that one side just to make sure the healer doesn't poke out, maybe put pressure on that like space and decision-making for that healer, but then he's not going to be able to do that to a tank. So like, I think it's a pretty good change. We'll have to see how it goes, but overall, I'm for it right now. Especially with Juno. I think Juno is going to shake up the mobility meta because it's going to be fried differently, but I don't think she's overpowered in that way. I don't think she's going to be oppressive. I think Lucio is kind of oppressive and a must pick, but I don't think they overlap. Anyway, we could talk about this for hours. We already have been talking about it hours. And if you stuck with us, thank you so much. We're the Esport Meta. You know where to find us here every Tuesday on Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching our live streams. You can also find us on social media, the Esports Meta. This has been a long one. It's been a good one. Thanks for joining me, Nick. Any final thoughts to send us off to the audience?
No, stay at a gray screen. That's always my thing, right? Stay at a gray screen. Like you need to live in the colorful world is what you need to do. It's a beautiful one. Live in it.
That's right. Bring you back to the land of Oz. None of those home with Dorothy gray scale stuff. And it's great advice, Nick. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here. And thanks for joining us if you're watching along still. This has been the Esport Meta. Check us out next week. Check out our YouTube, all the different things. Really just appreciate it here. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. All right, we're clear.
Oh, dude, I got to pee so bad.